Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan. Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest muskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, Q Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into Rochester's only local sports talk show. It is the Sports Bar. It is Danger and Battaglia, and we are glad you're with us, however you're listening or watching at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And we've got our video stream up on our YouTube channel right now. Thanks for watching at The Fan Rochester. Like, subscribe, comment while you're there. Also streaming on Twitch. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
All right, so Dandalorian. Of course, he's the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter of the finest audio.
Yes. The Dandalorian, the Sports Bar's bounty hunter of the finest audio in the galaxy. And we put him to task. We said, look, we need clarity. You need to be judge and jury. Today is the day. Today is the day the box wine bet gets settled.
So the bet was Bill Belichick coaching football next season. You were adamant about no. I was adamant about yes. But this is a gray area. Did I actually say NFL or did I leave it open?
So we tasked the Dandalorian with the origins of this bet. What were the original? Because nobody predicted Bill Belichick coaching college football in 2025. You didn't. I didn't.
No.
I don't think there was a single person who said, you know what he could do? College football. Everybody was just so laser focused on the NFL.
There was snarkiness like, oh, he could go coach college lacrosse.
Right.
But we weren't really taking that seriously. I don't think we took this seriously. Why would he go coach in North Carolina?
Because he is the Dandalorian, the finest bounty hunter in all the galaxy. Looking for audio, finding greatness. He went back through the Sports Bar archives, February 1st, 2024. We're talking almost a year ago. Now, this is just over 3.5 minutes long, so bear with us. This is the origin of the Bill Belichick box wine bet, and it should provide us clarity on who actually owes who a box of wine. And by the way, shame on me for allowing you to influence me and enjoy box wine the way I enjoy it. I enjoy it so damn much. Every night I go and get and I'm running a little bit low right now, Gino. My box of wine.
Don't worry. We're going to hear this, and look, you can pick up for one for yourself while you're going to be handing one over to me, buddy.
Let's go back in time to February 1st, 2024. The origins of the Bill Belichick box wine bet in the Sports Bar.
I think, I'm going to make a prediction here. I think Belichick is going to go on TV. He will be charming. It's going to be like a year-long audition, and then some owner will trip over himself, say, why don't we bring this guy in?
I think he's over, man. I think it's done. I think he's done.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
Are you allowed to do a box wine bet?
I will have to apologize if it doesn't go our way, but the winner gets to choose box wine.
You know better, Gene. You know better. Like, you know I'm always down. But the executive producer told you. I believe her exact words were, no more bets with danger.
No more bets with danger. I did win one, thanks to Ryan Fitzpatrick playing all of one quarter of
that
one
one
game.
Still stings, man. I knew I was right on that one. I didn't win the bet, but I wasn't wrong. Technically, you won, but I wasn't wrong.
You want to hang your hat on that? All right, so this one's going to have some legs to it. Will Bill Belichick be a head coach
In the NFL?
In the NFL. Are we saying again? I'm going to be very bold on this. In 2025.
Next
so
season.
this time next year when everything next season.
2025, is Bill Belichick a head coach in the NFL again?
retract it,
I'm
Gene.
saying
Retract
no.
it.
I am saying yes because the Jets and Giants are one step away from cleaning house. We could have a debate on which team is actually closer to that. Kind of diving into the Jets, it actually may be the Jets, and wouldn't that be funny that Belichick dissed that ownership years ago?
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Oh, this is going to be so delicious.
Gene,
do I want a good cab?
If we're talking hashtag box wine mafia, you should know I like the dark Pinot Noir. It's velvety. It keeps well for at least 30 days in my liquor cabinet. It comes in a dark purple. Is it Bada Box? Is that what it is?
Bada Box, yeah.
The dark purple is my flavor of choice, just so you're aware. I'm just going to give you the brosé. You're going to take that. You're going to like it. You and the executive producer can enjoy that. But no, the bet is, will he be an NFL head coach in 2025? I say no. I say he's done.
The only risk in this is when guys get out, they realize, oh, this is actually life. I get to sleep in a little bit. I can go away for the weekend. What is this like? Now, he has no one to share with.
How old is he? 71?
71, 72. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think he's done. And he has no reason or need other than his own maybe pursuit of a record that he has his own records. He has a resume that's going to be tough for any head coach in the NFL to ever top. I'd be satiated. I'd be good. I'd be done.
That's you.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We know enough about him to know he's not going to just settle. He's not going to go into a room and be like, yeah, I'm comfortable taking orders from a GM or an owner who acts like a GM. I want to call the shots. I need to call the shots. Parcells went through that with Dallas. He was the same kind of guy. It didn't go well. You don't think he's going to learn from guys like...
wild for a little bit.
Yeah, but Parcells couldn't take it anymore.
Here's also what we know about the fact that you have Bill Belichick loving the idea that he chasing down Don Shula's record. That we've talked to how many people that really matters to him. And when you have a big market like New York, they're not going to let that go. If anything less than the playoffs are the Jets or Giants, probably the Jets will let go of Salah. And I would say Daboll would be in trouble, especially if they don't find the quarterback. So the Giant fan base loves themselves some Bill Belichick.
Gino, respectfully, pay up, bitch.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you finding that. Great job, Dan. This is why you're really good at your job,
Hey,
Dan.
and for anybody in the peasantry on X at the fan Rochester calling me a Welsher on my bet, hit the bricks. He's not coaching in the NFL.
I do not have a box. Contrary to what you might think, I don't carry around a box of wine at all times, so I'll have to go shopping.
It'll be the dark purple. I expect payment before we break for the holidays. Thank you.
You know there's someone listening right now that's very upset at me. So I just want you to know that tonight might be a little frosty.
Julie, listen, I warned him. You heard me. I warned him right away. He can't help himself. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure you want to go down this path with me? You said, yeah. It's fine. Okay. Bill Belichick is not coaching in the NFL in 2025. Your boy hit on another box wine bet. And also Chris at South Central Kentucky right now doing victory laps, vindicated, knowing that he actually heard this originally back in February as well. I really believed it was always about coaching in the NFL, that was the bet.
I still believe that was the plan for Belichick, but as Wickersham lays it out, maybe that's the part I missed on, because I thought somebody would be starstruck, somebody would just look at the resume, but it's not just Belichick. It's Belichick and the merry band of brothers you got to hire. And when you do that, everybody in the front office is going to be like, oh, gosh, am I the guy out here? Everybody comes protective. That's the decision an owner has to make. And is it really worth it to blow up your organization for that at this point?
I love the part of the Wickersham piece that was out on ESPN today that described what was going on in Atlanta when he interviewed with Atlanta. And he met with the GM, and the GM had this kind of like all-knowing draft process where Belichick is probably just like, yeah, okay, get me out of here. Well, honestly, like,
Yeah.
okay, I gotta work with this guy if I take this job. And it turns out he wasn't even really one of their top 3 candidates. He wasn't in their top 3 when they tried to decide who they should hire to be their next head coach. They interviewed him twice, and he wasn't in their top 3. Wow. Everybody is protecting their own hide, their own skin. They don't want somebody that's going to come in and challenge. This is what plagues my team. This is what plagues the Bears, right? Like, ownership doesn't want somebody that's going to challenge them or make them look bad in public. Like, with all of my being, I want my team to hire somebody who's going to go in there and do what Sean McDermott did in Buffalo or do what Dan Campbell did in Detroit. Change the culture. But ownership doesn't want that. They want a yes man. They want somebody that's going to take orders from them.
Is that the case, or does Ryan Poles want that? Because I thought Chicago, logical destination.
For Belichick?
Yes.
Made a lot of sense. I would have taken him.
Yes, you would have.
I would have taken him. And in the Wickersham piece, that was also something that, you're right, Belichick and his merry band of brothers kind of evaluating and looking at the NFL and saying, all right, if there's going to be openings, who has the most attractive opening? Which destination would be the most attractive? Chicago is that destination. And Belichick, obviously he's not going to the Jets. We've heard him be critical of Woody Johnson throughout the course of the season. Hilarious. The Giants was interesting, right? His preference would be for the Giants that Brian Daboll stays and that they stay the course with what they have.
Of course, because that's
one of his guys.
Yeah, and I'll give Belichick a little bit of credit there. I do believe that you wouldn't want to take a job away from a guy that actually worked underneath you.
Right. He's still going to lose his job, but it doesn't mean that Belichick didn't need to throw another log on the fire Brian Daboll, fire. He's gone. It's not going to work for him there.
Belichick in North Carolina. Is this just him saving face? Like, what would have been humiliating, Danger, is I'm going to go through this whole process. And this time around, I'll give him maybe a pass last time because you got fired and maybe you knew you were going to get fired, but not to have the interviews, lack of interviews, there's only one last time, through back channels. I'd have to believe if there was an owner that was interested in seriously sitting down with Bill Belichick rather than just, oh, you're interested? Okay, let's talk. Check. Okay, move on to the next box. He never got that sense. But this makes it look like his decision in his terms. Is he fully invested in going into the college game?
Yeah. I mean, the headline of the Wickersham piece is basically, this is a giant FU to the NFL by Bill Belichick. I'm not wanted here anymore. Then I will go over here and be just fine. And you know what? I think he will be. I think he will be just fine in his new role.
I'd also say this, too, to any myopic AD in college football today. Clemson, Florida State. Florida State, actually, I'm looking at you. Hey, get us out of here. Get us out of here.
Oh.
All of a sudden, the ACC becomes very interesting.
Sure does.
The ACC is safe. The ACC, all of a sudden, ratings. You can put North Carolina in wherever window you want to now, and we are going to watch it.
Great news for Syracuse. It's great news for ACC football. I mean, when you look at the conference now and you see, the programs that, this year Miami was up, Clemson, obviously, SMU being in the conference and playing well, I think helps the conference. Now you add Belichick to the mix. And Florida State, down year, but I think Florida State is just one of those perennial programs that you would expect to be competitive. Good for Boston College, good for Syracuse, it's just good for the conference. Wild Hack's got to be excited in Syracuse. I mean,
I'm excited to see, okay, give us the ACC schedule. I want to see who is playing. Does Syracuse get North Carolina on the schedule next year?
Yeah. So that's the big news of the day, of course, Bill Belichick being announced as the new head coach in Chapel Hill. And
unless I lose a bet again.
This is, again, Bill Belichick from earlier today. Let's just give you a snippet here of his opening statement. Because I feel like this is kind of a historic day. It's good for college football, and it shuts the door on one hell of an NFL coaching career by Bill Belichick.
Chancellor Bubba, thank you. I can't express my gratitude to both of you, the Board of Trustees, for this amazing opportunity. I've always wanted to coach in football, coach in college football, and it just never really worked out. Had some good years in the NFL, so that was okay. But this is really kind of a dream come true. I grew up in college football with my dad. As the coach at Navy for 50 years, so as a kid, all I knew was college football, and so it's great to come back home to Carolina and back in an environment that I really grew up in. When you're little, you don't remember everything. Obviously, I was too young to remember a lot of things from Carolina. But as I grew up, you hear the same story over and over and over and over again. And so one story I always heard was Billy's first words were, "Beat Duke."
That's how you play to a room. That's how you own a room.
The media applauding.
Yeah.
So full circle. But again, very grateful and appreciative for the opportunity. This is a great process. I've learned so much about the university and the support that we have for the football program. And this is obviously a great educational school, and the kids here are outstanding, and we want to transfer that over to the football field and have an outstanding football team with those student athletes. So I'm here to as Bubba said, teach, develop, and build the program in the way that I believe in, and so grateful to have Michael with me in this process.
Michael Lombardi.
We've worked together for going all the way back over 30 years, and he has a great knowledge of the general manager role, if you will, in this type of position, with terms of scouting two sets of players, high school players and college portal players, as well as dealing with some version of what's called salary cap, which is now part of college football. So all that being said, I look forward to working here. I talked to the players a little earlier, and that was a great opportunity to start to get to know them and start to build the program. And I'm excited to continue that process. And also met with Coach Kitchens, who will be the first member of the staff that we
Freddie
hire.
Kitchens.
And I have a ton of respect for him, as well as for Mac. A lot of respect for Mac and his career, what he's done. Also look forward to connecting with him down the road. But excited to be here, excited to be in college football, excited for the opportunity to build and develop young student athletes, young men, and prepare them for their life, either in the NFL or professionally. But the lessons they learn will be professional lessons. They'll be pros in all areas, and that's what we want to develop, as well as having a winning program, a successful program. But we want to develop good people and good kids, and good football players.
For so many years, we heard this act from Bill Belichick in front of the media, and I get the sense that it's just not. I mean, one, it's not something he enjoys, but two, it's just not a strength. It's not really a strength. Because that opening statement felt like it was not really prepared. It felt like it was kind of, almost unscripted or improvised. However, he comes off so much more likable today than if that was him a year ago or at any other press conference. Don't make me start to like Bill Belichick. This guy can't become likable in my eyes. It started with the media stuff, and now, hearing him today, and I'm sure it's going to go back to salty Bill Belichick after a bad loss, but I'm kind of happy for him. I'm kind of happy that this is going on for him, and I'm excited to see what happens there in North Carolina.
He sounds a little more energized, right, compared to those final days in New England where just kind of burping out words there. What do you think Brady's thinking today? Or more Brady's father. Like they're snickering at this, right? Oh, you couldn't find a job, so you got to go back to college.
It's weird. I don't want to pretend to know what their relationship is like. I mean, they coexisted with such a high level of success for so long, and I think they both fed off of each other and fed off of that success. And they, through that era, they probably grew to love each other at times and hate each other at times as well. I mean, it's just very clear to me in the NFL, he needed Brady. He had the luxury of the greatest quarterback in NFL history, and he doesn't have to apologize for that. But the way they managed each other and the way they worked with each other, I'm sure at this point, like, okay, we really don't need to spend any time together. We'll be okay. And wasn't Brady imitating Belichick when he heard the news about this? Like, yeah, come to UNC or don't. Either way, whatever. It's fine. It'll be fine. And at some point, Brady's going to have to make a decision here too, because I don't think that he's going to be able to continue to do what he's doing on TV and be as involved in the Raiders as I think the Raiders want him to, or need him to be. Like, they need somebody with the football mind to help them make better decisions because it's clearly not working out.
Well, I would think that they should be looking for a head coach. Pierce didn't work out. It was a nice little burst of energy when he came on and won a couple games over the Jets and Giants last year, but it's an opportunity to go find a head coach and, more importantly, your quarterback. If you're going to be drafting the top two, wouldn't you want Tom Brady counseling everybody here in that Raider organization? How does he have time for that when he's on the road every week right now?
We spent a lot of time here right out the gate talking about Bill Belichick to the University of North Carolina. We should let you know who's stopping by the sports bar this afternoon. We've got a great show lined up for you, including Russell Brown from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. He'll give us a little preview of the Lions and the Bills. The Bills, who did not practice today.
No.
It's one of those days where you look down the thruway, and you look west, and you're like, ooh, I guess we're a little bit fortunate.
I like Rochester.
Where we are right now, because we're not getting nailed the way Hamburg is, and certainly Orchard Park travel advisory or travel ban, I think, in place. So they weren't able to get practice underway. They met virtually via Zoom, and hopefully we'll have the chance to practice one last time tomorrow before they head to Detroit for Sunday's game. But usually Friday is like that installation practice where it's more of a walkthrough anyways. So going into Detroit against one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league, without really getting an actual practice in might be problematic. And then you look at the injury report and you wonder, oh boy, this also might be problematic if you want to believe what we're seeing here with Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp, both listed as DNPs for a day that they didn't practice, but an estimated practice report.
Well, how did Damar Hamlin get hurt in a walkthrough? Is that what they're saying, basically? So nothing happened today. Yesterday was just a walkthrough, and a walkthrough is nothing more than here are your dance steps, learn them. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's gamesmanship, honestly, dangerous.
Well, we'll get the opinion of Dan Fates from 13Web Sports and BuffaloPlus.com. He'll join us next. We'll talk a little bit about last week's loss. Turn the page. Look ahead to Sunday's game against the Lions as well. This injury report and the idea that the Bills aren't really going to get a practice in before they get to face Detroit in Detroit on Sunday afternoon. Fates will join us next. You can join us this afternoon on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Our phone number is 866 4FAN 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
Sports Update.
No practice today for the Buffalo Bills. Heavy snow in Erie County, forcing everyone there to stay home. A team meeting only virtually today, although they didn't practice today. Damar Hamlin was added to the injury report. We'll talk some Bills football coming up next. Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus to join us. Bill Belichick introduces the new head coach in North Carolina. Why keep coaching?
Well, beats working. You know, when you love what you do, and my dad told me this, when you love what you do, it's not work. It's really, I love what I do. I love coaching. I love the interaction with the players. I love building a team, working with the assistants, game planning, the game itself.
Former NFL GM Michael Lombardi hired as Belichick's GM in North Carolina. Hey, Amherst make it 2 in a row, make it 3 in a row as they play at Belleville tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Joining us between feedings, our buddy Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. Talk some Bills, talk some Lions, and Dan, less than ideal when you have to cancel a practice due to weather, and all you have to deal with in the future is the NFL's best team. How you holding up, buddy? And what are your thoughts here as the Bills get ready for Detroit?
We're doing well. It's chaos, but it's beautiful, and you're just trying to enjoy every minute of it, which is kind of what I expect for this Bills-Lions game. I think it's going to be another fun, exciting game like we saw last week against the Rams. I think there's going to be a ton of points scored. I think both defenses are currently banged up. No Damar Hamlin, no Taylor Rapp. I know they didn't have practice, but they were added to that list. I think the Bills defense could have some trouble against the best offensive line in football. And that was one of the concerning things that we saw against the Rams, was the fact that there was no ability to get Matt Stafford off his spot, to be in the same area code, to make Matt Stafford even think that he was going to be under pressure. Those are my concerns, but I also know the Lions are very banged up as well defensively. And so I think this thing could just be going back and forth. And, you know, any single punt that you can force defensively is going to be a massive win.
Yeah, knowing you're facing this Lions offense and knowing that we've heard Sean McDermott talk about complementary football. And as I ask you this question, it seems silly coming off a 42-point performance. But do you expect, should we expect, the Bills actually to make more of an effort to keep the ball on the ground here, maybe chew up some clock in this game?
Yeah, I think that would be great. And I know there was some criticism about where was James Cook last week, and I think that's a little bit of hindsight because the Bills were down 17 points in the second quarter. Like, it's not hard to understand that when teams are down, they're going to throw the ball more. So it's the game flow. And it's maybe, Gene, it's not as much of running the ball more, but maybe not having such a slow start. I know at times I've said, like, who cares about how you start? They come back, they make adjustments in the second half and all of those things. But I think against a team like this, the Lions can get out to a fast start on you, and they can run away and hide and kind of make it tough to come back, just like the Rams did last week. So I expect to see some more James Cook early, but I think it's about getting off to a hot start and keeping the game close enough to be able to have more of a 50-50 balance between running and throwing.
It's funny, though, even if the Lions do get off to a quicker start, and we're talking with Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. I mean, they've shown here over the last few weeks that if they get off to a big lead, they'll let teams back into the game. And I think the Bills might be different than some of these other teams, including the Bears on Thanksgiving, that they let back into the game. The Bills might be able to actually finish it if they actually get back into a game after starting slow.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what do the Lions can get caught playing with their food. It is tough to constantly get up every single week. They've won 11 games in a row. And it kind of felt like last week with the Bills. There was this sense of you were waiting for the shoe to drop. They had won all these games in a row, and everything's going great. And everybody just kind of had this thought of like, they just going to win all the games going into the playoffs, and then what happens? So I think there is a little bit of that sense if you're a Lions fan. Like they have been playing with fire a little bit. They really could have lost the Thanksgiving game if your former great head coach was a little bit smarter there. Yeah. But I think they can, let teams hang around, and it's because their defense, guys, is just so banged up. It really is, and they will blitz, and they will blitz, and then they will blitz some more. So that's their way of playing. It's the aggressive Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn kind of way, and you can get beat by that when you face an offense that gets hot or a quarterback that gets hot.
Dan Fates 13 Wham Buffalo Plus joining us here in the sports bar. Is Dan, we're kind of locked out of Buffalo today. Nobody could get down there. So I'm just curious. We don't know the answer to this. How does Damar Hamlin end up on the injury report today when they didn't practice today and they released their injury report yesterday? But I digress. The bigger picture here being the secondary. If Hamlin's banged up, if Taylor Rapp is banged up, and your thoughts here on Rasul Douglas and. Wait, we could see Jamarcus Ingram over Kyer Elam? I mean, this would kind of be the end for Elam, I guess, if you're not being allowed this opportunity, would it not?
Yeah, especially talking about Ingram, like he has played well in the spots that he's been called upon. Long, physical, athletic corner that I really think kind of popped in training camp along with Kyer Elam. What I think has been the tipping point recently with only keeping one of them active, it's that Ingram plays much more and is better on special teams. So even if you say, if you're Sean McDermott, you say defensively they are on the same playing field, but Ingram's the better special teamer than Kyer, then that's why he gets the nod on game days and Kyer's inactive. Now, when it comes to a full slate of reps defensively, that would be a big knock on Kyer if he can't. Once again, he's getting played over by, not only did he get beat by Christian Benford, a 5th or 6th round guy, now you're getting beat out by a UB guy that was undrafted. So, yeah, I think the fact that he hasn't made any moments this year, he did get the one start, I think, when Benford was out, but this has been what hope there was preseason and training camp-wise has kind of fizzled away for Kyer Elam. And the secondary, you're right, Gene, is a concern. And here's my one take, and I'll maybe flip the question around to you guys, because it was one of my takeaways from the Rams game. And, again, going up against another high-powered offense. Why is it that for 13 weeks, when the Bills' defense was top 10, arguably top 5 defense, Bobby Babich gets all the credit and all the praise for what he has done to turn this defense around and all of these things. And then when they have one bad game against the Rams, how come all of a sudden it's Sean McDermott's defense? Yeah. Did you guys find that interesting? I thought that was weird.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, Dad, because that's where I was going to go with you next. I mean, we want to close the book on what happened in L.A., but we're not going to forget that it was just brutal clock management at the end by Sean McDermott. And like the fact that he's owning up to his mistakes now, which is something that he didn't do after 13 seconds, I think that shows a little bit of self-awareness by the head coach of the football team, and ultimately the buck stops with him. But is there an arrogance there to the defense in that they won't adjust any of their planning? Like if you're watching the team get ripped up in their zone defense, they're not going to shift and go to man. It's just not something that they're going to do. And let's face it, also, they were going up against a quarterback who wasn't affected, who the pass rush couldn't get to him, and Stafford absolutely picked him apart. Nakua picked him apart. Kupp picked him apart. You could have a similar kind of outcome with a quarterback maybe not as talented as Stafford and Goff, but if you're not able to get home with your front four, it could be a long afternoon. Yeah, and as I'm watching that game, I'm not necessarily sitting there going, man, this defense stinks today. There are guys wide open. Some of the catches that Cooper Kupp made, or some of the catches that Puka made, I went, that's great defense. That's just simply a better throw and catch. That's right. Like, that was just better offense beating great defense. Like, that's what that was. And I'll push back a little bit, Danger. I understand what you're saying about they are so set in their nickel defense. That is their base defense, and they don't seem to adjust off of that. But I went back and watched some of the tape, and I'm not an all-22 guy. I always make that very clear. I don't know everything about those kind of numbers. They did everything they tried. Like they threw everything at the Rams defense. They did, or Rams offense. They were zone early, and they were a little bit of man. Then they blitzed. Then they sent Bernard. Then they sent Karen. Then they sent Milano. None of it worked. Like, none of it worked. It wasn't for a lack of trying, I don't feel like, in that Rams game. It was for the fact that the front four couldn't get there. When they sent extra guys, they couldn't get there. And if I'm Taron Johnson, after some of those catches that I'm all over Puka Nacua, and it's a perfect throw, I'm going back to the huddle going, Greg, do something. Like, help me out. Like, affect him a little bit. That was my one concern, because I also think there's a fact, and Gene, you can attest to this. Try to make the baseball analogy. There are times when a pitcher is a 7-11 pitcher on the year, right? He's got a 5 ERA. He can throw a no-hitter. Because some days they just have it. And I looked at Stafford. I looked at Sean McVay. I think they feasted on a young rookie defensive coordinator. And there was just one of those days where everything went their way. Converting 11 of 14 third downs. Like, that's silly.
So I don't want to panic as much. But what my level of concern is that the defensive line got dominated by a middle-of-the-road offensive line, and now you're going to go into Detroit, who has the best offensive line, and when you go into the postseason, they're going to be better offensive lines, and there was a little bit of the flashback of the Bengals playoff loss, where Joe Burrow got to sit back there all day and pick apart questionable to average coverage. Because if you let those good quarterbacks sit back, I don't care who you are, they're going to pick you apart if they have no fear of getting any pressure. That's on Ed, that's on Daquan, that's on Vaughn, that's on A.J. Epinesa, because I think they just left the secondary out to dry.
Yeah, I mean, at least that playoff game, you could always say, well, the neutralizer
They
is
were
when
gassed.
the field and everything. But that defensive line, Dan, you're right. It's you better get better. I mean, if we went one by one down the line, who would you say? All right, that was just kind of one game. I mean, maybe it's Rousseau. I thought Rousseau's had a pretty good year. I'm really concerned about Ed Oliver at this point. I just don't know where his game has disappeared to, Dan.
Ed seems like a guy that needs somebody next to him to be dominant. And that's tough to do when you get paid like Ed Oliver got paid. When you get that money, you're supposed to be the guy that makes everybody around you better and not the other way around. Daquan hasn't been the same since he tore his pec in London of last year. He just doesn't seem to have the push, the drive. They've always been an undersized defensive line to begin with. When you have Ed, Rousseau's a big, lengthy guy with speed, but he's not the physical, edge rusher, bruiser that you would see. And Vaughn is what Vaughn is at this point. So there are issues. And again, where everybody wants to, I always say this. I feel like I come in here all the time and joke, not joke around about it, but the fact of Sean's got to do this better. Sean's got to do this better. If there's one black eye on Brandon Beane's resume, it's the fact that he hasn't figured out this defensive line for his entire time in Buffalo. That's his one, stain on his resume, because he's done everything else. Every other position he has found value and has done really well. This defensive line has been a concern for years, and it reared its ugly head, and I think that's why my level of concern is going, are we going to do this all over again?
I think it'd be hypocritical for a lot of us to look at Sean McDermott given his body of work and how just a couple of weeks ago he was doing snow angels next to Josh Allen, and we're like, oh, look at the coach. He's having a good time. He's changed. He's this new guy. And then we have what we have at the end of the Rams game, the mismanagement, and I'll give them credit. When they lose games, they lose it in spectacular fashion. So I guess my question is, Dan, is Sean McDermott, and a lot of people are asking this question, is Sean McDermott going to be a liability for this team once again come postseason?
I've always been a Sean McDermott defender. I also think because there's just a lot of times not irrational, dislike for McDermott. I think part of it's because he's a defensive-minded coach, and everybody wants the shiny new offensive coordinator to be running in charge. That being said, the timeout sucked. I also think that it takes 15 to 20 seconds to get off the next snap, and we could have a Matt Eberflus situation where you're going, what are you doing? And at that point, the other thing I think about, guys, and it's not revisionist history, it's not hindsight, but I understand the point. Oh, he mismanaged the last 2 minutes of the game. Well, you got your butt kicked in for 58 minutes before that. And why are we only focusing on the last minutes? I understand that's where you make your money, and I get it. That's the most important things. But the defense got handed to them for 58 minutes. And that's not necessarily Sean McDermott. And for everybody that thinks that, it's a bad game, Sean's going to do this, Sean's not calling the plays offensively. He's not calling the plays defensively. There has to be accountability, and I think Sean has become that. He's taken that step back and has given the reins to Joe Brady to have full autonomy and belief, and with Bobby Babich. He said there are going to be times when he doesn't agree with Babich's calls, but that's the job of the defensive coordinator. So is it going to be a liability? Maybe. I'm not going to sit here and stomp my foot and say, no, he's great at time management at the end of the game. No, I'm not going to say that. It worked out pretty well at the end of the Kansas City game when they went for it and Josh ran in the touchdown and Mahomes didn't get a chance to come back and possibly beat them. It's a little bit of, recency bias of here we go again. But I look at that game as I said, you just got beat. We just talked about the defensive line getting dominated. I think that's a more bigger concern than whether or not and when Sean McDermott used his timeouts.
Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus joining us. Dan, I know how you love how we jump ahead in the story here. But if I may, the number one seed looks a little out of reach. It's not dead, but you're going to need some breaks. So the Bills as the 2 divisional round. Is that a concerning matchup against Pittsburgh? Would that be a bad matchup for the Bills?
Pittsburgh, I wouldn't love to play because of that defense. Always kind of scares me. I think you'd want to play Denver. I think that would be the dream matchup. You get to face the rookie quarterback. Pittsburgh's a tricky team to figure out. There's one week that I think they're great, and then they lay an egg in a divisional game against the Browns. Anytime you have to face T.J. Watt, I don't really want any part of that. So I wouldn't say nightmare, but I would rather not face the Steelers in the divisional round, that's for sure.
Dan, if you start to look at the AFC playoff pictures, it starts to become crystallized here, and it could become – we could be like 2 weeks left in the NFL, and we know everybody that's in the AFC playoff picture. Is there a team that you look at that we might be looking over, that most casual fans or just hardcore fans might not be taking seriously? I have a team in mind. I want to see if we're on the same page.
It's a really good question. AFC or NFC?
AFC.
AFC. I mean, then there's Denver can play hot. Like, here I am saying that I want to face Denver, and then I'm going, I don't know, maybe they're the hot team with the rookie quarterback. That's a really good question. I think that entire AFC North is kind of tricky to figure out. I don't really have any concerns about the AFC South unless that's where you're going.
No, I'm going towards Baltimore. I'm
Really?
going towards Baltimore. I look at Baltimore, and nobody's really talking about Baltimore because they've got some bad losses on their schedule, and Lamar's kind of out of the MVP conversation, even though he's putting up unbelievable stats, and they're they have size, they have physicality, they have Derrick Henry, and it'll be January. I just want no part of Baltimore in the postseason.
So, Danger, my question to you there is, why do we think that Baltimore gets more dangerous later in the year when historically they have collapsed worse than the Bills and Sean McDermott have collapsed since 2019?
I think the biggest I was going to say, I think the biggest difference this year is the run game. I think it's Derrick Henry. I think it's the physicality. It's the idea that somebody has to tackle that guy when it's freezing cold outside.
Yeah, that's fair. And it was a question. I wasn't trying to angle you or say like, no, you're crazy, because I get it. But there is this sense of like, Baltimore's so dangerous. Like, we've always heard that Baltimore's dangerous. I think their defense is not as good as it has been in years past.
Yes.
And there is this thought of like Lamar, and it's like, what has Lamar done in the postseason that hasn't been anything? I mean, he's been McDermott level choking as a quarterback in the postseason. So it's like, when they get behind and you can't just run Derrick Henry 30 times and Lamar has to throw the ball in those conditions, it's been bad. So
we can debate it, but Kansas City is going to win it all anyway. So what are we even talking about?
but it's funny too, because we're sitting here and I'm sitting there and I go, I've almost like resigned. Where everybody after this week said, "Oh, the Bills, here they go again, Sean McDermott." I've like resigned that with Baltimore, where I'm like, Harbaugh's as a coach, their defense will make a mistake. Lamar can't win a shootout in this and that. So it is funny because again, they have all the talent. There's no question offensively. They have all of the weapons to make hay this year like they have in the past in some respects.
Dan, I lost a bet to Danger on a technicality.
Stop.
Well, it's
clear as
fact.
day.
That's clear as day. I said he'd be coaching in the NFL. Well,
I said he wasn't going to coach in the NFL. He was done coaching in the NFL.
You said he was done coaching.
I said done coaching in the NFL.
Well, anyways, the box wine will be coming in shortly. Dan, Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Do you think this will work?
No, I don't. I think this is his way of staying in it, I guess, is how many more McAfee interviews and how many more CBS Sports breakdowns and NFL films can he do before he's just kind of seen as another one of the analysts? I think this is just a play of getting in and setting up his family. Respect, understand that. But I think that if we saw anything after Tom Brady left, the game kind of passed Belichick to some respects, making adjustments, things like that. I think the game's changed. I think college has changed massively, whether it's the NIL, whether it's things like that, attention span, keeping kids engaged, motivation, all of those things. I'm skeptical if Bill Belichick, who is by far the greatest coach of all time, can do that at his age.
It's good for college football, though. It's good for the ACC, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. No, it's a great story. I just think that we could be looking at a 6-6 UNC team going, okay, yeah,
Nothing changes. It'll be the same this year with Mac Brown and next year with Belichick. Yeah.
Did it ruin your holiday season, Dan, that the reality that the Braves now are the clear-cut third-best team in the NL
Here we
East?
go.
No, here we go.
Here we
Here
go.
I can't believe we got this far into the interview. I thought we would lead off with this. No pun intended. Yeah, it's adorable. It's adorable that Jeff McNeil will be protecting Juan Soto behind him, or will it be Brandon Nimmo? Who's gonna protect Soto behind him?
Joke's going to be on both of you guys when the Marlins win the East this year and come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's baseball.
I'm hearing crickets, Gene.
No, Dan. I take comfort in knowing that the
You
Mets.
smug Mets fan. Congrats on your World Series in December. Congratulations. Hey, if we have learned anything about the history of baseball, nothing ever goes wrong with 15 and 16-year deals. Nothing ever goes wrong.
Well, there's an opt-out after 5, and Vientos will protect him. You'll have Lindor. I would bat Soto second in that lineup, Dan, to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Dan, you're welcome to convert. You're welcome to back off the Braves. You're going to be a busy man. It might be time to just kind of power down from the fandom of baseball, knowing that, well, your team is just going to be average.
We'll have to figure out a box wine bet or a bourbon bet or something for a record on Mets and Braves.
Do it, because Gene's not allowed to bet anymore. His wife won't let him. He keeps
allowed.
losing.
I'm going to be in trouble tonight. So there's that.
I'm happy for you. I am, honestly. It's good for baseball. I'm always monopoly money. It's not real. Congrats to Soto. He deserves every penny that this guy's gotten. I think he would have played for whoever gave him the most money. Steve Cohen backed up his wallet and put it on the table and did what he said he was going to do. I love when owners do that. I'm so sick of owners in baseball crying poor. This is a good deal for all of baseball. Everybody benefits from this. It is weird that you guys don't understand deferred contracts and deferring money, but what does it matter? It's not real money to Steve Cohen anyway. He can pay him tomorrow. He can pay the full guaranteed money tomorrow. What does it matter?
Right. Dan, are you working on anything Buffalo Plus 13 Web Sports we can check out this week, or are you still on girl dad duty number 3?
Still on girl dad duty until Monday. Going to enjoy this weekend. Mike and Jen are heading to Detroit. They got the live show today on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Podcast will be out tomorrow. Mike also talked to a sports reporter in Detroit. That video is doing really well, 25,000 views. So check that one out as well to hear what they're saying in Detroit about the Lions as the Bills head into the Motor City.
Is it because, Dan, you're on girl dad duty, or because you're not allowed over the border that you can't go to Detroit?
My wife did call it a man purse yesterday when she asked where is it, and I instantly thought of
the purse in the car.
Leave the man purse in the car.
I instantly thought about being emasculated by Nick Sirianni's steroid cousin.
Enjoy your week, bud. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
There's Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com.
And real quick, if you missed the story from last week, this was the Bills and Lions Thanksgiving Day game, and Catalana and Fates are coming back over into the States, and we've been all there, right? Oh, my gosh. Look at this line at the border. Oh, no. And Catalana's like, oh, I've got the Nexus card. I can just zip past. Dan's like, I don't have it. Oh, no, you don't need it.
Dan's driving. Catalana's a passenger. Catalana has the Nexus card. Dan does not.
Right. They get up to the booth. The woman asks, oh, very pleasant, very pleasant. Where's yours? Dan, I don't have one. He has one. Pull over now. All of a sudden, the tenor changes.
Yeah.
They pull over into a parking spot, and there is a Mountie right there before they get over the border. And the Mountie gives Dan the instructions, leave the purse in the car.
He's going to grab his bag.
Dan can't hear. What? I said, leave the man purse in the car.
That story has me so shook. I'm afraid to even walk into Lululemon. If I walk into Lululemon, am I going to be tempted to buy a man purse like Fates?
It is a little unnerving when you pull up at the border. It's that wait. You're in line. You're already a little edgy. Crossing the border is a little tricky.
My passport expired a couple of years ago, and last year I had to cross over to go to Toronto for a concert with my daughter, and I was nervous. So I had my expired passport, and I thought, oh, they're going to give me a hard time. Let me get a copy of my birth certificate just in case they give me a hard time. And so I brought that with me as well. And the border patrol guy's looking at me. He's like, aren't you a little bit old to be carrying your birth certificates? I'm like, hey, man, I don't know. You can't win. You can't win. You just can't win. So, it's to answer your question, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking crossing the border or coming back in.
One time I'm going over with the family, and they asked me for my occupation. Like, that matters, right? What's your – oh, I'm a radio guy. What is radio guy?
Oh, my God.
That became a family joke, yeah.
We're going to get to Russell Brown, Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. We'll talk more Bills and Lions coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. We've got time for your calls as well at 866-4326. In fact, right now, let's try this. Be caller 5, and we'll get you a $50 gift certificate to Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery. They feature one of Western New York's largest gluten-free menus. In addition to pizza, you can stop by for some of their legendary carrot cake, chocolate dreamboat cake, and handcrafted cookie selections at 212 Rochester Street in Avon, now celebrating their 19th anniversary, open Tuesday through Sunday. Caller 5 at 866-4326 wins a $50 gift certificate to Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery. Good luck from the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Heavy snow today in the Buffalo area, forcing everyone to stay home, meaning no practice for the Bills today. The team meeting only virtually. Although they didn't practice, DeMar Hamlin added to the injury report with a back issue. Bill Belichick today, introduced as the new head coach at North Carolina. The Hall of Famer talking about his coaching staff.
There'll certainly be a strong presence of NFL people on the staff. I think that's a certainty, and not only in the staff and in the training area, but at the same time, I'm looking for the best people we can get for Carolina. And that fit, I think, is a little different than what an NFL team would have, but we'll see.
The Rochester Americans win up in Laval. That's 2 wins in a row. They look for number 3 in a row at Belleville tomorrow night. The Sabres have lost 8 in a row now. Next in action coming up on Friday in Washington. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
New sheriff in town at Chapel Hill, Bill Belichick, North Carolina, reportedly in agreement to become the new head coach.
It is time to picture Bill Belichick in a Carolina blue cutoff sweatshirt because he is now officially Chapel Bill. Chapel Bill, and they're now Hood's Heels.
Mike Danger, Gene Battaglia.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
Are you allowed to do a box wine bet?
I will have to apologize if it doesn't go our way, but the winner gets to choose box wine.
And then you come into a game like this, that might be the game of the year. I expecting going into Detroit this week, I would expect a more conservative effort from the Bills this week to lean on James Cook, lean on Ty Johnson and those guys and run the football.
I think the way to beat the Lions defensively is just throw on them. It's really difficult to run on them.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Gino, just in case, I've got an extra room if you need one tonight. I'm worried about you having to break the news to the executive producer that you've lost yet another bet to yours truly.
I want to say some people are pointing out here, your favorite flavor is dark purple.
Pinot Noir.
I know, but like you said, just dark purple.
That's the color of the box, dark purple. There's 2 different purples.
Oh, okay.
There's a dark purple. I think it's I think on the box it says Lush Pinot Noir. And they got me at Lush because, I mean, nothing is a better descriptor of me when I'm going to the box of wine every night. I feel like a Lush.
Pinot Noir is a wimpy. It is.
The guy who drinks rosé is going to call me out for drinking Pinot Noir?
Rosé is for the summer. No, Pinot, I like a nice
You know when I drink rosé? Never. Never.
Pinot, never. Sideways made Pinot popular. It's a wimpy variety.
No, the Sideways killed Merlot. Single-handedly killed Merlot.
Yeah.
Merlot, get out of here with your Merlot. I do like a good cab. Hey, listen, beggars can't be choosers. I win the bet fair and square. I know I'm calling my shot. But if you want to, introduce me to the world of boxed cab, I'll listen to that.
No, I will pay up my bet as I always do. Thank you to Dan DeLorean for pulling the audio as we played earlier. Yes, the bet said NFL. None of us saw college football Bill Belichick appearing. Good for him.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, like every now and then I'll hit on the unlikely. Remember when Catalana thought I was crazy because I said Carson Wentz wasn't going to be with the Eagles anymore? Like they were going to get rid of Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was nuts. I'm like, he's gone. He's a cancer. That locker room hates him. That organization hates him.
I lost the bet on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, that one probably still stings a little bit. So you're going to go home and the executive producer is going to be like, really? 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 So, Gino, I've got space.
I could have told Dan to doctor the tape, but he didn't. That would have
on a day where we're talking about Bill Belichick, of course. that would make sense, right? The guy that got busted for Spygate or Deflategate,
funny, like,
doctoring the tape in your favor.
Like he will be coaching in college football.
Yeah,
did a voiceover on that.
The introductory press conference. Don't make me like Bill Belichick all of a sudden, but he actually, I think, comes off as likable. If you want to believe what he's saying, it's a 5-year deal. And the clause in there about his son, I don't know if that got brought up at all in the press conference, but that's really what this is about, right? I mean, like, it's about him kind of being able to pass the baton to another Belichick.
sure. I think after reading the Wickersham piece, after kind of taking in, okay, this is how the NFL head coaching cycle really works. If Bill Belichick knew there was a team through back channels that was interested in hiring him, he would have known. This is him saving face. It really is. If he still wants to coach, he wasn't going to get that opportunity in the NFL.
That's right.
And actually, to this day, that still surprises me. What better resume would you have? But the reality is this. An NFL organization is more than a head coach, and you bring in Bill Belichick, and he's going to want to bring in his people. And it's
more and more.
Also,
more and more. I just think these NFL owners, I mentioned it yesterday, they have a type, but I also think they don't want to be challenged. I don't think they want somebody to come in and try to be the smartest person in the room. They have to have that power. They have to have that authority. And let's face it, they do. Ultimately, they're the ones signing the check. But how foolish are you if you're an NFL owner and you think that you have all of the answers, or that you shouldn't listen to a guy who has the resume of a Bill Belichick, or that he can't add something of value to a team that's struggling? Because if you're looking for a coach, you're struggling. I think that I think it was just very clear to me that the NFL has passed Bill Belichick by. That there was nothing about his deal from all the years that he was in New England that anybody wanted to inherit, that anybody wanted to have be a part of their organization. And that goes beyond just the coaching cycle from last year. I mean, you can look at what the future openings are, and the Wickersham piece did a great job of kind of breaking down all the potential future openings. I love that he said, that his take on the Giants is that Daboll should retain his position. If you're Bill Belichick and you really, really wanted to be power hungry and make a case to be the next head coach of the New York Giants, all you'd have to do is say, that would be appealing to me.
That's true. But to his credit, he's not about that. And I guess if he considers Brian Daboll a friend, that would be being a very bad friend.
Yes.
The Jets was never a consideration. Chicago is interesting. However, like Ryan Pohl,
they don't want that in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm debating this with all of my Bear fan buddies about who the next coach should be or could be. And right now I'm parked. I'm parked on Vrabel. I'm parked on Vrabel because I need somebody that can come into an organization and do what Dan Campbell did in Detroit, or do what Sean McDermott did in Buffalo. Change the culture. Culture-changing kind of guy. Somebody that can come in day one, set a tone. This is how it's going to be done. And, yeah, I'm going to bring in somebody who can work with the quarterback, because that's the most important thing about this team right now. And the biggest asset that they have right now is a young, talented quarterback.
There are other jobs that aren't open. We expect to be open. Jacksonville, take for instance, where maybe the owner would be okay to work for. But does anybody want to be working for Trent Baalke in the end?
Trent Baalke?
Trent Baalke is the GM, and Bill Belichick. I don't know if that would have worked out.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it probably wouldn't work out.
We're not there yet. We still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet. We'll do that on Monday.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to work for that guy or work with that guy. Lest he get crop dusted in the middle of a press conference. Take of the year nominee, Trent Baalke.
That would be a big upset if Trent Baalke won take of the year, but could a fart win take of the year? Possible.
I mean, at minimum, it's going to make me laugh every time. I'm sorry. If you can't laugh at a fart, what's wrong with you?
But the fact that he owned it. We've had other ones like,
that was slick. He was slick about it. He moved
right on.
Moved quickly. Excuse me. Moving on. Like, well, what's the matter? Like, you don't fart? Come on, I'm Trent Baalke. Of course I fart. Everybody farts. Just let one rip in the middle of a press conference.
Not at the podium.
No, just let it rip. So yeah, I just think the NFL wasn't about to have this guy, and I think the Wickersham piece also lays out a pretty strong case that Robert Kraft, I don't want to say blackballed Bill Belichick, but he didn't give a glowing recommendation of what it would be like to have Bill Belichick as your head coach. These guys are thick as thieves, these NFL owners.
Yeah, and we have to talk about this, and it's not right, but the age question is also part of this too. He's 72, going to college. Like you mentioned, the baton over to Steve at some point. Steve was never going to be a head coach in the NFL. I'm sorry. No, that was never, ever going to happen. For Bill Belichick, though, Danger, I will say there is an adjustment period, of course, going from the pros to the college. I'm thinking of all the different things he might adjust to in this one. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. I can't wait. Do you know one thing they have in college that they don't have in the NFL? That's student reporters. His old growling and not answering. It may work, though, in the college game. It worked for Nick Saban, for crying out loud. The guy who was asked about the presidential election, Saban said he didn't even know what was going on.
It's unbelievable.
But this is all I ask, though. Bill, if you get a question that comes your way, just don't be Jim Boeheim. Like, to me, Jim Boeheim actually it reflected poorly on him.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I just thought he was a jerk. I just thought he was a complete jerk in those settings with student reporters specifically. And I want to give Belichick the benefit of the doubt. I know he's been surly through the years with the media, but he is in a setting, and he mentioned it in his introductory press conference. He wants to coach. He wants to teach. He wants to, set up people for success in the future. And I think as you get older in life, you accumulate all this wisdom. You want to pass it on to the next generation. And he referenced his old man a lot. He referenced growing up. He referenced the influence that he had being on campus and being a part of that college program with his old man. That I think that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he might not be jovial after a bad loss, but I don't think he's going to be demeaning the way Boeheim was. I don't think he's undressing student reporters with his answers or with his venom the way Boeheim used to. I just think you're right. That was just such a bad look. Can we file this under the latest example of the only standard that exists as a double standard? Because Roger Goodell was asked about whether or not the NFL would sever their ties with Jay-Z's Rock Nation amidst the civil suit and the allegations levied against him.
All right, so I'm sorry. I've heard about this, and I really don't want to wander into an area where I'm not so sure of these allegations. Tell me a little bit more.
Well, the biggest thing that you're going to gravitate towards, because I think everybody that follows sports gravitates towards this name when you hear it, you have an opinion. Tony Busby is filing the civil suit against Jay-Z that alleges he and Diddy raped a 13-year-old girl, raped a minor. It's a horrible allegation. Horrible allegation, horrible civil suit. Yet Roger Goodell today saying, no, we have no plans to end the relationship. However, if a punter on an NFL team, there will be, if you're a punter in the NFL, if you're a player in the NFL, swift action will be taken.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
That's really disturbing.
Yeah.
I think the answer from Goodell should have been, it's a situation we're monitoring. Thank you. At the very least, just all you had to say is let's let this play out.
You could, that's the stock answer, right? That's the standard. Like, hey, it's in legal, it's in it's in the courts. We're going to let the court system prevail, and we'll deal with it when we have to deal with it. Whatever you want to say, but to just come right out, no, we're not changing anything.
Let's lighten the mood here.
Please.
New report from The Athletic here.
Okay.
Listing 5 markets for NHL expansion. And I'm just going to say this. I guarantee you won't get all 5, Danger. Like, you can get some of the chalk ones, and then there's one like, what the hell is it Bettman talking about here?
Okay. We're going to go with Houston.
Houston is on the board.
We're going to go with Atlanta.
Atlanta, number 1.
We're going to go with Austin.
Nope. Like the thinking there, though.
Oh, okay. So Oklahoma City, Kansas City?
Close. I'll give it to you. Atlanta, Houston, Phoenix. That feels more like an olive branch. They just lost their team.
As long as that owner isn't there, we can deal with Phoenix. As long as we don't have to deal with the Muello family.
And Gary Bettman has said previously that smaller places like Cincinnati and Nebraska have shown interest.
Nebraska?
We're going to put a team in Omaha?
Nebraska?
I guess if Oklahoma City has a team, we're going to put a team in Omaha? Is that what he's thinking? Unless there's some big wealthy oil guy.
You got to go Kansas City before you go either of those.
That would be infuriating. Well, everybody's pointing out Hi, we're Quebec. We have an arena. We have this history. We have a fan base.
Yeah.
You also have taxes in the dollar and blah, blah, blah. All the reasons I could list why they won't. But 5 markets, not one north of the border.
Wow. Yeah, America's hat can't be too happy about that report today. You're going to give a team to Omaha?
Yes, Houston and Phoenix is currently without a team.
If you think getting out of or to Rochester, traveling in or out of Rochester is challenging, Omaha. Nebraska's in the middle of nowhere, man. It is so in the middle of nowhere.
Well, we have the benefit, let's just say, all right, we have another airport that's an hour and 10 minutes down the road. You live in a place like that, where's your closest airport? Okay.
It's Omaha or bust. I mean, you're not Lincoln, I'm sure is a lovely small airport, but yeah, you're landlocked. That's a hard place to get to. I got to imagine that's an expensive route if you're traveling.
Translation, it's Atlanta and Houston. That's it. Like, the way I read this, you have to put Phoenix in there because you don't want to completely ignore. You said that, Gary. You said that they would always be in the mix. Okay, well, somebody gets their act together, but please, with Cincinnati, why not put Rochester in there for crying out loud?
Can we build an arena? Because that's all it takes for you to get on the list is, can you build an arena?
Mr. Golisano, please. Hi, it's Gene and Danger here. We would love an arena and an NHL team. Can we have that? Yeah, I know your friend really loved hockey. Gene Balestini would that would be fantastic.
And what about that organization that he abandoned? That the Pagulas took over, the Sabres, the S word. Do we want Golisano involved in that at all?
No.
We want our own thing.
No. If he bought the team back, I would welcome that.
Of course.
The team was like on the precipice of a cup, a cup appearance.
Of course.
This team is unlikable, unwatchable. We carry them. What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to say, listen, coming up Saturday night. No.
It's tough, man. It's really, really tough. Oh, they're benching players now. This is the accountability that the players wanted.
Oh, in mid-December. Fantastic. You're just doing this now.
Yeah. Wow. No, the part that you said about them not being likable, that's the one that's tough. Like, you want to have a guy or two on the team that you're like, yeah, identify with that guy. That's a dude that I can get down with. That's a guy that, like, if we were having beers and talking hockey, we would have a lot of fun. I don't even know if that guy exists on this roster. Is there a guy on this roster that you'd be like, oh, yeah, I like that guy. I like that player?
Well, let me just say this. Like, Tage scores a lot of goals, but he doesn't have that sort of, here I am.
He's kind of robotic.
No.
He's not real charismatic.
No, right. There isn't a guy that you're like, that's my guy. I'm going to go out and watch in hell or high water.
Man, I wanted to be high on Dylan Cousins. He's broken.
He is.
He is broken. I mean, Zach Benson maybe develops into something like that. Owen Power maybe develops into that kind of guy. But right now, no. They're just like dumb kids that don't follow a system that's being presented to them. And it's going to lead to another coaching, another firing, a complete gutting of the organization again.
No, when your leadership basically takes a dump on your area. Yeah. Sorry, Kevin Adams. That's how I interpret it.
It's over.
Like, yeah, you bon voyage.
It's over. Wake us up when there's actual change once again, and we know it's coming. Let's shift gears and talk about the big brother that's been bullying the Buffalo Sabres. Another reason why Kevin Adams is bad at his job is because you see what Buffalo is doing. We're trying to do that here.
Russell Brown is great when it comes to draft analysis. He's also really into Lions football. He's based in Detroit. We'll be talking to Russell Brown coming up next from Fantasy Pros.
He's coming up. And also your calls. We have plenty of time for you to join us here in the Sports Bar on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
No practice today for the Buffalo Bills. Heavy snow in Erie County, forcing everyone to stay home there. A team meeting only virtually today. Although they didn't practice today, DeMar Hamlin added to the injury report. We'll talk some Lions football coming up next. Our friend Russell Brown to join us here in the Sports Bar. Bill Belichick introduced as the new head coach at North Carolina. Why keep coaching?
Well, beats working. You know, when you love what you do, and my dad told me this, when you love what you do, it's not work. It's really, I love what I do. I love coaching. I love the interaction with the players. I love building a team, working with the assistants, game planning, the game itself.
The Amerks have made it 2 in a row now. They play at Belleville tomorrow night. The Sabres have dropped their last 8. They're on the road Saturday night when they play at Washington. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You know, we talk about the Detroit Lions. We always think about our guy, Russell Brown. I mean, this guy feels like he's been through hell as a fan of this team. And now to watch the Lions become what they have become has to feel pretty good. You could get his work at Fantasy Pros, at Betting Pros. Russell Brown stopping by the Sports Bar. We usually talk NFL draft with you, Russell Brown, and I guess we could start there because I know that Dan Campbell is going to be considered for Coach of the Year, especially if they end up with the 1 seed in the NFC. But considering what they've done with this team and this roster through the draft, in drafting the right guys and developing the right guys. I mean, anybody could really go in there. Hell, Russ, you could go in there, coach these guys up, and have them in a position to be the 1 seed. How are you, bud?
I'm good. I don't know if I could coach as well as he could. I'm trying, but yeah, it's great to be back with you guys. But it's great to just see this. I mean, as a fan, and Bills fans know it. And when we started doing this, interview stuff and everything, I was with Cover One at the time, and I just remember watching the guys on the Cover One team see the Bills become good. And I remember having conversations down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl with them about how does it feel. And it was so foreign to me then because the Lions were not good. And now they're good. And it's still kind of foreign to me because I don't know, is something bad ever going to happen again? And because they've won 11 in a row. But it's just a great feeling. It feels very similar to that with you guys and the Bills. And it's going to be a great game on Sunday. And I can't believe that no matter who they're picking up off the street, it's working for them on defense. Their offense is electric. And it ultimately, it comes down to Dan Campbell being a tremendous coach and the other coaches that are there. But ultimately, it does come down to the culture. And it shows on certain down and distances with the defense. The culture is great in Detroit. And these guys that have been playing with each other for 4 or 5 days are already loving each other for the way that they're playing. So it's great to see.
Russ, picking your brain here on what the Lions may do against Buffalo and the Bills, 7 straight games they scored 30 points. It's hard to criticize the Bills offense. I'm not criticizing. I'm just wondering if they steer this in a different direction this week because we only saw 6 carries from James Cook. We didn't see a single carry from Ray Davis. And, well, part of that was, you fell behind by 17. You got to throw the ball. But I would expect the Bills to make more of an effort to get the ground game going against the Lions this week. If that's the case, I mean, you're Sean McDermott and you're Josh Allen. How do you go defending against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills if you're Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to get some speed on the field. You got to find speed within your defense. And I think, the one key player to maybe pay attention to the most is going to be Jamal Adams. I know he only played 8 or 9 snaps last week, but they loved putting him in the slot, putting him down in the box and having him blitz and kind of having an outside rush and keeping the quarterback to kind of one side of the pocket. So I think that's what their direction may be. Maybe Jamal doesn't play every single snap. You kind of pick and choose battles there. But I really think that might be a direction that they end up going. And then, obviously, I love what I see from Jack Campbell on a week-to-week basis. And I just wonder, I know he's not the fastest linebacker in the world, but he's got some pretty good sideline-to-sideline ability. He ran a 6.88 3-cone drill back when he was coming out of Iowa, and it was one of the fastest 3-cone drills of any linebacker in that draft 2 years ago. So I do wonder, is he the man in the middle kind of playing spy on Josh Allen and preventing him from going sideline to sideline and then just stopping the run game in any sense, and as you mentioned, getting James Cook going, I think that's a good idea for them. But if Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, if those guys are back, which I think they will be, I think there's a chance we see either Levi Ozarike or Josh Paschal as well. If those guys are coming back, it's going to be tough for James Cook because the Lions are very good at closing down those gaps and plugging them and preventing running backs from hitting that initial opening. So they got to bounce a lot of runs and those types of things. But when you have Josh Allen, you've got to honor that. So I think the Bills can get creative in a lot of different ways with James Cook, maybe Ty Johnson a little bit. It seems like whenever he's on the field, it's an explosive play. And then obviously you just got to honor Josh Allen whenever he's touching the ball.
Russ, this is the highest over-under, not just this week, but this season in the NFL. And I don't know, I'm struggling with this being the kind of shootout that we saw last week between the Bills and the Rams. And basically, more so than anything, because I think the Bills will want to keep their defense off the field against this Detroit offense, an offensive line that you could argue is the best in the league. They have size, they're physical, and against the Bills' undersized and underperforming defensive line, frankly, I'm a little bit nervous about how much they could get carved up against Detroit.
I'm with you. I think one of the big things that just watching the Bills through some film study and then just paying attention to the Lions, obviously, all season, I think one of the biggest things is how the Bills are getting kind of torched on the ground. And there were times, last week against the Rams where Kyron Williams was going 5, 6, 7, 8 yards down the field before even getting touched. And I know he didn't run for, 200 plus or anything like that, but we're seeing teams running for 150, 160 pretty consistently against the Bills over the last couple of weeks. So I think you're right. The Bills are going to have to they're going to have to establish some type of ground game and keep the Lions offense off the field. So it definitely makes you think maybe the under is very much in play here for the betting market out there at 53.5 if people are into that. But at the same time, the Lions might be able to carve them up a little bit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery because they're such a great duo together. And I said this to a good friend of mine at Cover One, Anthony Prohaska, earlier this week, and he mentioned it. He goes, Jahmyr Gibbs is more knuckles than Sonic at times, and David Montgomery at times is more Sonic than knuckles. They really feed off of each other because people want to go with that speed and power type of element to their game. And I think Gibbs is going to be a guy that certainly gets, I would like to say bulk of the load. I know Montgomery's certainly going to get his fair share, but seems to be in the second half. Jahmyr Gibbs starts taking the game over after defenses are worn down and the speed element really comes into play.
We're talking to Russell Brown, fantasy pros and betting pros. And if I had to bet who was going to be the coach of the year, Dan Campbell would probably be the answer, maybe Mike Tomlin. But where do you come down? What's being said with the media, the fan base? Because if there is one thing, hey, we're going for it on the fourth down. Well, you look back at the NFC Championship game. You look back at last week. Didn't cost you last week. But it's still everybody in Motown 100% behind Campbell when it comes to these sort of decisions.
Yeah, they are. I mean, especially when they're working, right? When it doesn't work, they're like, man, punt the ball. But that's, a kind of a mixed bag of fans. For the most part, most fans are understanding of the fact that the Lions defense is shredded with injuries right now. More injuries than probably any defensive unit in the NFL and probably more injuries than any team in the NFL. And they understand the situations that they're in and that sometimes they've got to be aggressive to do what they need to do. And if we want to change this same old Lions mantra, you've got to get aggressive on fourth down. And that includes on 4th and goal twice against the Packers to score touchdowns, key touchdowns that gave them the advantage and ultimately the win. So I think most people are okay with it, and we understand that that's kind of our brand of football now, and that's who we are. And Dan Campbell's going to call certain things to the benefits of to the benefits of his players, but also to what the players ultimately want to do. If the players feel like they can go out there and get him a yard, get him 2 yards, whatever the case may be, he's going to roll the dice because that's what his team tells him they can do. So you put that trust in your players, you can never really go wrong as a coach.
Hoping to get those fourth down stops, but also turnovers, I think, are going to be a key for the Buffalo Bills against Detroit. They didn't get any against the Rams. They lose that game. If you take away the Houston game, Jared Goff is right in line with Josh Allen in terms of protecting the football. So I guess my question, Russ, is what happened in the Houston game that made Jared Goff a turnover machine, and can the Bills force a similar outcome out of Jared Goff on Sunday?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that happened with Goff in that that game was just he was rushing a lot of throws. I felt like he wasn't going through his progressions all the way, and he was forcing passes. There's been times this year where he tried to force certain passes, certain balls to certain receivers, and it showed early in the year against the Bucks. That's why they lost that game. It showed early in the year against the Rams, and it showed in a game like the Texans and through certain parts of the season. But then he gets in this groove where he really protects the football. He gets comfortable taking the easier throws, and that really showed last week. I know he had the bad interception against the Packers, and they came back and scored right after with the touchdown and responded, but he really took a lot of checkdowns last week. Not all the time, but he would check the ball down, and he was comfortable with just taking the open guy. And he's just getting a lot more comfortable, it feels like. And I said this earlier in the year to my boss over at the Lions Wire and Jeff Risdon, and I said, Jared Goff's playing the best football we've ever seen him play. He is so comfortable in that offense, changing plays, audibling out of things, flipping things, whatever the case may be. He looks so comfortable. So, that game against the Texans, more so a one-off. They have a great defense. They're physical. They were in great position, getting aggressive and blitzing. And again, he was just really forcing a lot of throws. But I don't think that'll be the case against the Bills with him forcing throws. I think he's kind of learned, okay, I'll take a sack, I'll live for another down here, and get back to the way that I play the game.
Russ, with the field goal banking in for Kansas City and the Bills losing, it's the 1 seed for the Bills. Things would have to break right. It's kind of out of reach. For Lions, no, you're in control there of your destiny as the one. How would you assess that race, part one of the question, and then kind of the bigger picture overall, like the Lions getting in, who would scare you the most matching up this postseason?
Well, I think the team that, scares me the most is the Philadelphia Eagles, just simply because of what they've done with their defense and how well they've played with Vic Fangio and guys like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell playing so well. Darius Slay's playing a high level of football, playing some of the best football he's played in years. Their defense is getting pressure. It's changed a little bit with Brandon Graham getting hurt. But again, you look at their offense, it feels like at any moment they could have a game-winning drive. They could go down and score a touchdown because of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts and their ability to run the football. The passing game doesn't scare me as much. They seem to be a little bit out of sync, whether it's Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. Then Dallas Goedert's on IR. But outside of them, I would say maybe the L.A. Rams, just simply because you can never count them out with Matthew Stafford. They're able to run the football. Their defense gets aggressive. And if they match up against them, I mean, they've had their number for the last, season and a half or so. How many times can they get away with beating them, So that one worries me just a little bit because I'm a little superstitious. But the path to the 1 seed, right? I mean, it's one of those things where they continue to win, they get in, they get that first round bye, and that's crucial for a team that needs all the rest that they can get because of how banged up they are. But if they were to lose a game, this would be the game to lose because it's a non-conference opponent and it's one of those non-divisional opponents. And if they lose and the Vikings and Eagles win, they're still all tied, but the Lions still are in control of their own destiny with the final 3 games left after that. So I think they're going to be okay. I'd like to think that. I never try to look too far ahead though. And at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like it's meant for Week 18 against the Minnesota Vikings for the division and the number 1 seed.
Russell Brown, you can read his work, Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, and you mentioned the Rams Betting Pros good content here, Russ. I mean, if you're thinking that they're a team that could be a problem in the postseason, I would imagine that that's the lean for tonight as Week 15 gets underway.
I went back and forth. I really did. I could see it happening. I do like the LA Rams at +3 if anybody wants to take that, just simply because if they lose, okay, you're okay. Probably more of a push. But I am leaning towards the 49ers simply because it seems like whenever we see disgruntled receiver, Deebo Samuel, for example, he's been held under 25 yards in 4 straight games. I think he's due for a big game tonight. He's only had 2 touchdowns all season long. And it just seems like when those guys get, frustrated, they tend to come back out the next week and play at a really high level. It seems like their run game should be intact for the most part, despite some of the injuries. So I know they're going to activate Dre Greenlaw as well. That's huge. And it is tough for, teams to beat an opponent twice in 1 year unless you're playing like the New York Jets or something like that. But I got to throw a Jets. Anytime I can poke fun at the Jets, you got to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm leaning towards the 49ers. And I feel like this is a team that can get to 7-7 and make things really interesting over the next 3 weeks.
Russ, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask your thoughts here on the news of the day, the top story. Bill Belichick, head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Russ, is this going to work?
I don't know. I mean, aliens seem to be real. UFOs seem to be real. Now Bill Belichick's coaching at the college level. I don't know what reality I'm in, but and my football team's 12-1. I don't know what's going on, but no, it's crazy, right? I think it could work because if he gets the right guys and he's the guy that can make a 2-star recruit into something. I mean, we know what he did with so many different players over the years, and I'm not discrediting those players, but he certainly played a role in that and helped developing and getting them in the right spots. I think the same could happen, but I just wonder, what happens when he gets a player that commits to him and then flips his commitment to LSU or wherever. What happens there? So it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to hold out hope that it works because, I like the guy, respect the guy. He's done great things for the game of football, and he's by far the best coach of all time. So I hope it works for him just simply because I don't want him to tarnish his legacy by going from the NFL to college football and not being that guy that couldn't make it work.
Do you still sniff around and do some draft work, Russ?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're starting to get a little knee deep into it. It's always tough during kind of the regular season of college football and the NFL with me coaching high school football and then just trying to cover all, so many different angles of the game now. But, yeah, I wrinkle into it kind of starting now, and then by the time we get into the end of January, I'm pretty much into full gear.
Well, listen, we'll talk to draft time, but let's talk for Bills-Lions Super Bowl. What do you think, Russ?
Oh, my God. I would love that. I grew up a Lions fan as a diehard, but, I've always had, that backup team that I've rooted for that was not in the NFC, and it's always been the Buffalo Bills. So, I got the Bills jersey. I got a Bills flag. I got a Bills hat. I got all kinds of stuff with Bills stuff on it. Also, my aunt lived out in Buffalo for a few years back when I was a kid, so she'd always bring me back stuff when I was real little. So I would love to see it. I would definitely obviously root for the Lions, but I would be happy for Bills Mafia if they were the team that walked away with the Lombardi this year.
I don't think New Orleans would survive, Gino. We keep wishing for this improbable Super Bowl between these two franchises. New Orleans would be devastated if both Detroit fans and Bills Mafia descended on that town.
Yeah, and I know the state of Michigan would shut down for sure. I know I would be in probably a week-long bender for sure because it would be the greatest week of my life.
Russ, tell everybody where they can get more of your content.
Yeah, you can follow me on X, or formerly known as Twitter, at Russ NFL Draft, or you can check it out over at Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, or Lions Wire.
Great stuff. As always, Russ, let's talk again soon. Enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, you guys do the same.
You got there's Russell Brown. You can check out his work at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, Lions guy, and giving us a little insight before we get to Sunday afternoon's matchup.
You say New Orleans, wherever the Bills, when they get back to the Super Bowl someday.
Oh, sure.
Whatever that town will be.
Sure.
But if you have two fan bases that are going to be ravenous, I always wondered, all right, if it's the Bills and the 49ers, yeah, Niner fan, chances are, if you've been to a Super Bowl before, you're not going to be. We're going to been waiting our whole lives for this.
Mm-hmm. Packers, same thing.
Same thing. Vikings
would be fun.
Why don't we talk about them? We just kind of dismissed them. They're 11-2. They have a better record than Buffalo, and they're
scary.
not even discussing.
Yeah.
We don't discuss them.
They're just completely being overshadowed by Detroit. But Darnold is playing great. Kevin O'Connell is this genius offensive mind all of a sudden.
Yeah, and Brian Flores is maximizing that defense.
He's doing a good job. And it might come down, as Russ pointed out, in the NFC, it might come down to that Week 18 matchup between the Vikings and the Lions for everything. For the 1 seed, for the division, could come down to all of it. One thing that he mentioned that should, if you're a Bills fan, it maybe give you a little bit of, okay. Look, if the Lions lose this game, it's not like they lose the 1 seed. They're still in control, even if they lose to the Bills on Sunday. So it's almost like they have a little bit of a buffer here. I'm not saying or suggesting that they would take their foot off the gas. I don't think that that's what that team is about or how they're wired. But much like the Bills losing to the Rams, it was a bad loss, but it's not devastating. You won the division. You know you're in the dance. And okay, maybe you're going to have to fight for that 2 seed now. The 1 seed is probably out of the picture.
What's more unlikely, the Bills winning in Detroit or the Browns at home over Kansas City? And at first you say, oh, the Bills will
No, that's kind of game that Cleveland rises up for and wins.
Yeah. I think Jameis Winston will move the ball in this game.
It's crazy. It is crazy. That's the NFL. So who knows? Maybe by this time next week, we're talking about the Bills being back in play for the 1 seed if they beat Detroit. If they beat Detroit and if the Browns stun Kansas City, then anything is possible, I guess, again. Really enjoyed our conversation there with Russell, and we encourage you to check him out, Russ NFL Draft on X. Great content from a football guy. I forgot to ask him what his high school team did, how his high school team performed this year. We're going to take a break and come back with Happy Hour next on the Fan Rochester. Bill Belichick has been announced and introduced as the new head coach of the University of North Carolina, and I have won yet another boxed wine bet in the sports bar. I'm the champ. Styling and profiling.
Do you need a glow? Nobody likes winner.
No, nobody cares
like
when you're right. Yeah. I know. But we have the Dandalorian to thank for clarifying, playing the role of judge and jury, and also our listeners, our regulars. Chris in South Central Kentucky seem to remember that it was an NFL-specific bet, and we have the audio to back it up. We'll get to that. We'll talk about Belichick to North Carolina, what it all means. And with the Bills specifically, we'd love to be able to tell you that there's something to report. They didn't practice today because they're buried. There's a travel ban. And the injury report is out. There is something of note on that injury report that we can discuss.
Yeah, how did this happen?
We'll get to that and more next with Happy Hour in the sports bar. 866-4FAN is our phone number. If you want to join us, 585-866-4326.
WNBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
No practice today for the Buffalo Bills. That's because there's heavy snow in Erie County, forcing everyone to stay at home. A team meeting only virtually today, although they didn't practice today. Damar Hamlin was added to the injury report with a back issue. Bill Belichick today introduces the new head coach at North Carolina. The Hall of Famer talking about his coaching staff.
There'll certainly be a strong presence of NFL people on the staff. I think that's a certainty, and not only in the staff and in the training area, but at the same time, I'm looking for the best people we can get for Carolina. That fit, I think, is a little different than what an NFL team would have, but we'll see.
Former NFL GM Michael Lombardi, now the North Carolina GM. The Amherst have made it 2 in a row. They play at Belleville tomorrow night. The Sabres have lost 8 in a row. They play at Washington on Saturday. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
New sheriff in town at Chapel Hill, Bill Belichick, North Carolina, reportedly in agreement to become the new head coach.
It is time to picture Bill Belichick in a Carolina blue cutoff sweatshirt because he is now officially Chapel Bill. Chapel Bill, and they're now Hood's Heels.
Mike Danger, Gene Battaglia.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
Are you allowed to do a box wine bet?
I will have to apologize if it doesn't go our way, but the winner gets to choose box wine.
And then you come into a game like this, that might be the game of the year. I'm expecting going into Detroit this week, I would expect a more conservative effort from the Bills this week to lean on James Cook, lean on Ty Johnson and those guys and run the football.
I think the way to beat the Lions defensively is just throw on them. It's really difficult to run on them.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Have you been coming up with a strategy for when you walk through the door and explain to the executive producer how you are owned once again by your co-host?
No.
The box wine bet?
She kind of remembered the same thing that Chris and others listeners did, that it was an NFL bet. The spirit of the bet I won. In this audio piece, I make great predictions about the upcoming NFL season. I should just have that as my resume, telling you exactly what would happen with New York football. But no, you won the bet, Danger. Congratulations. You're so smart. You enjoy that wine.
We needed a judge and jury. The Dandalorian, our bounty hunter, the finest audio in the galaxy, who helps us out here in the sports bar, went back. I mean, he had to dig into the archives of the sports bar.
We didn't know what day we said this. February 1st, he found it.
February 1st, 2024, we first made the box wine bet. It sounded like this.
I'm going to make a prediction here. I think Belichick is going to go on TV. He will be charming. It's going to be like a year-long audition, and then some owner will trip over himself, say, why don't we bring this guy in?
I think he's over, man. I think it's done. I think he's done.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
Are you allowed to do a box wine bet?
I will have to apologize if it doesn't go our way, but the winner gets to choose box wine.
You know better, Gene. You know better. I'm always down. But the executive producer told you. I believe her exact words were, no more bets with danger.
No more bets with danger. I did win one, thanks to Ryan Fitzpatrick playing all of one quarter of
that
one
one
game.
Still stings, man. I knew I was right on that one. I didn't win the bet, but I wasn't wrong. Technically, you won, but I wasn't wrong.
You want to hang your hat on that? All right, so this one's going to have some legs to it. Will Bill Belichick be a head coach
in the NFL?
In the NFL, are we saying again? I'm going to be very bold on this in 2025. This time next year, next season.
2025, is Bill Belichick a head coach in the NFL again? I'm saying no.
I am saying yes because the Jets and Giants are one step away from cleaning house. We could have a debate on which team is actually closer to that. Kind of diving into the Jets, it actually may be the Jets, and wouldn't that be funny that Belichick dissed that ownership years ago?
It's not happening.
Oh, this is going to be so delicious.
Gene,
do I want a good cab?
If we're talking hashtag box wine mafia, you should know I like the dark Pinot Noir. It's velvety. It keeps well for at least 30 days in my liquor cabinet. It comes in a dark purple. Is it Bada Box? Is that what it is?
Bada Box, yeah.
The dark purple is my flavor of choice, just so you're aware.
Dark purple,
I'm just going to give you the brosé. You're going to take that. You're going to like it. You and the executive producer can enjoy that. But no, the bet is, will he be an NFL head coach in 2025? I say no. I say he's done.
The only risk in this is when guys get out, they realize, oh, this is actually life. I get to sleep in a little bit. I can go away for the weekend. What is this like? Now, he has no one to share with.
How old is he? 71?
71, 72. I'd have looked that up.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think he's done. And he has no reason or need other than his own maybe pursuit of a record that he has his own records. He has a resume that's going to be tough for any head coach in the NFL to ever top. I'd be satiated. I'd be good. I'd be done.
That's you.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We know enough about him to know he's not going to just settle. He's not going to go into a room and be like, yeah, I'm comfortable taking orders from a GM or an owner who acts like a GM. I want to call the shots. I need to call the shots. Parcells went through that with Dallas. He was the same kind of guy. It didn't go well. You don't think he's going to learn from guys
like... wild for a little bit.
Yeah, but Parcells couldn't take it anymore.
Here's also what we know about the fact that you have Bill Belichick loving the idea that he chasing down Don Shula's record. That we've talked to how many people that really matters to him. And when you have a big market like New York, they're not going to let that go. If anything less than the playoffs are the Jets or Giants, probably the Jets will let go of Salah. And I would say Daboll would be in trouble, especially if they don't find the quarterback. So the Giant fan base loves themselves some Bill Belichick.
Right about a lot of things, but not about the key thing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Gino. I appreciate that. Like I mentioned back in February, I like the dark purple box. I believe it's the Lush Pinot Noir. It's my flavor of choice when we were talking about #box wine mafia.
This is all you're going to be doing the week between. You'll throw the Christmas tree out on the 26th, and then you'll be just going back. Another little pour. Take
another little hit off of the box of wine. I guess there is still a chance that you could win this bet because Belichick in the past has gone back on his word. But then there was this also from his introductory press conference today.
Bill, what do you say to people that fear that if you do succeed here, that you might leave for the NFL again in a year or two?
Yeah, I didn't come here to leave.
Hey! I didn't come here to leave.
Wow, that's... Yeah, you have to ask him that question because once upon a time, he got up to tell everybody he wasn't taking the Jets job.
That's right.
Hey, the one thing I did not realize here, and you read the Wickersham piece, I thought it was just kind of the circumstance last year why Bill Belichick only got one interview. No, turns out there's just a lot of teams that weren't ready to sign up here for Bill Belichick. They would have interviewed him, I'm sure. How could you not? But I'm sure, Danger, through back channels, these teams that have openings, maybe teams that don't have openings, he wasn't getting signals. So to me, sure, he's always wanted to coach in college. Yes, this is a new challenge, and we're going to put a happy face. It's him not ready to retire yet. It's him actually saving face, okay, that the NFL said, hey, we're done with you. Okay, I'll go do something else then.
I do believe him when he says that he loves this. He loves to coach. He was good in the media. He did a good job for the 1 year that he was breaking down film on Inside the NFL and making appearances on McAfee and on the Manning cast. It was like entertaining, really entertaining. And I think it softened his image enough that a lot of people that maybe never had a positive feeling about him might have come around. I know I did. But I want to take him at his word when he says, I love this. This is what, this isn't work to me. This is what I love to do. And, I internalize it and I think that's kind of how I feel about radio. Like, I love this. I love doing what we do so much that, if we stopped doing it, I would probably have to find a way to scratch that itch. Remember when Brett Axe was let go, and he talked about missing the juice. I think if you get into a routine and you get into something that you love as much as he loves coaching, you miss the juice. And it might not be the NFL, but as Wickersham said in his piece, it was almost like this was a giant middle finger to the NFL, as if to say, you know what, F you, I'm going to go and do it my way, someplace where they want me. And they're not going to discredit me or look down on me because of how it ended in New England. And Robert Kraft, all but they didn't blackball him, but he basically didn't paint a flattering picture of what life working with Bill Belichick was like those last few years in New England.
I think it's going to work, Danger. First of all, you're not going to the Big Ten. You're not going to the SEC. The non-conference schedule, okay, you get TCU, but then you win that game, you're going to be 4-0 non-conference. What a way to prop it up with the portal, with the resources. It's the ACC. That's the secret winner today. The conference that we thought, my goodness, once Clemson and Florida State wind their way out of this, okay, you guys having second thoughts now that actually one of your partners pulled off a move like this?
Yeah.
That's also the stunning thing. It's Bill Belichick. How many other colleges, universities now are saying, oh my gosh, we should have done this. Why didn't we go after Belichick?
I'm telling you, it's a template for relevancy in a very crowded college football landscape. It's also great for college football. Like, college football is viewing itself now not just as a little brother to the NFL. Like, in certain parts of our country, this sport is more popular than the NFL, and they want to continue to expand that. I think what we're going to see with the college football playoff is going to help them, and I certainly think when you hire guys like Deion Sanders or Bill Belichick, you've got more eyeballs, you've got more attention being paid to your product. It's great for the ACC. And when you look and when you read the Wickersham report, you get the sense Belichick wasn't just going to take UNC because they were the only ones that would have him. Like, he was analyzing potential NFL vacancies, trying to determine who would have had the best vacancy. Like, this was calculated. Belichick probably said, I would be interested because he knows at that school, a school that the program is, right around 500 almost every year. Mac Brown, heritage coach, legendary coach. He can go in there, make an impact, and win in the ACC.
So I'm going to make a reference you won't get, as I'm just watching Ted Lasso now for the first time. Yes, I'm 4 years late here, but Belichick, he has his own Diamond Dogs, Danger, okay? His own little group there of guys.
Sure.
And they were doing these Zoom calls every week this year. Michael Lombardi, former GM of the Patriots, Browns. We actually have Michael Lombardi on the show.
He's great.
Yeah. McDaniels, Patricia, all the guys you would expect that aren't in the game right now, analyzing the situation and talking about the next moves.
Doing what they would normally do if they were employed by an NFL team. Looking over film, breaking down coaches, just being maniacal in the lab, just breaking it all down, chopping it up. And I love that. Even though you're not working, you're doing it. And so I think he knew what he was doing when he said yes to North Carolina. And I think he knew what he was doing because he believes that he can go in there, be impactful in the ACC, and compete right away. If 500 is the benchmark, you should be better than 500 in year one of Bill Belichick. I would imagine if you are able to recruit. I mean, what a recruiting tool to say, we got the best, arguably the best NFL coach of all time running our program now. Would you rather do that or go play for the guy that doesn't believe in NIL or the transfer portal? Choice is yours. I mean, it's an easy sell. It's an easy sell if you're a family looking to figure out where your kid is going to play college football. So I think I'm with you. I think it's going to work. I think he's going to be just fine in North Carolina.
I think it's going to work, and I also think college football is going to get to a place after this playoff. If this playoff gives you great games, controversy, things that have meat to it, legs, as we call in our business, I don't think college football on the whole will ever surpass the NFL, but could college football take the spot of number 2 in this country?
Are they not number 2 right now?
Well, you could say the NBA. Based on what metric are we talking about?
I would say based on profitability. I would just say that, there's two they're both made-for-TV products at this point, right? Like, we make no bones about it. The NFL is a made-for-TV product. They base their success on how many eyeballs watch their product on any given week. Live programming, the ultimate reality television. And I think college football is probably the same thing. I don't think they pull the same numbers that the NFL does. But, man, these games are long, and they're sold out. I mean, like, there's sponsorship everywhere in the college game. More so, you could argue that they've made more out of their sponsorships than the NFL has.
There's one gaping hole to college football, and that's the Northeast, right? So, like, there just isn't college football big time. As much as we want to say Syracuse and BC, Temple. I mean, what do we really?
Penn State. That's about it.
Yeah, that's right. So we can make. They can make a convincing argument they're number 2, but solidify that position. And now comes the playoff. Now comes the playoff next week.
Yes,
next week.
That's right. Yeah, exciting stuff. Bill Belichick, new head coach at the University of North Carolina, and your boy with a brand new box of wine, courtesy of his co-host Gene Battaglia.
He did find love, though.
Oh, you can't tell me he can't recruit. Look at his girlfriend and tell me he can't recruit. He can recruit. He'll recruit.
So, Danger, you've told the story. Like, you once had an opportunity in Indianapolis and you had to run it by Sandy and ultimately decided no.
Right.
Is Belichick running this by his 24-year-old girlfriend?
Are you kidding me? She's got to be ecstatic, overjoyed. She can now hang out with people her own age.
Actually, okay. All right, but I'm being serious. Like, if it's a serious relationship, he's got to run this past her.
Sure. And what's she going to say? No? Okay. You're going to say no? Stay back.
Yeah.
What does she do? Hair and nails or something like that? Okay. Well, the difference between my story and Belichick's story is, yeah, I'm married with kids at the time that I'm saying, you know what, maybe it's better to put my family ahead of my career and plant roots in this community that I have chosen to get married in. And Belichick doesn't have that. I mean, his kids are grown. They're off, and they're successful. He's divorced. He's got his
Wow. Yes and no. I mean, he's doing this in part to set up Steve. That's a big part of the equation.
For sure. And I think also when we start to hear about who he's hiring, who he's bringing on, it will be familiar names. I have a feeling you will see his cast of characters kind of showing up at Chapel Hill.
Freddie Kitchens being the first guy.
That's right.
What?
That's right. You mentioned Lombardi as the program's GM, and Freddie Kitchens, former NFL coach, not really viewed through a positive lens if you're a Browns fan, but he's been there at Carolina, and apparently they're going to retain him, so he's there.
Maggie Gray had an interesting take this morning. Would Saban go on in some sort of role?
Oh. Interesting. Yeah.
They're really good friends. That would be, yeah.
It would be interesting. I do think it's funny that a lot of the legacy guys left college football because of their views on NIL and the transfer portal. But Belichick didn't really mention that. I mean, like, almost embracing the change instead of saying this isn't the way it should be or this isn't the way it's always been. I believe him earnestly when he says that he loves coaching and he's going to be about these kids and not just preparing them for a potential future in the NFL, but just preparing them for life. That's what a coach or a mentor does, and I'm going to take him at his word for that. I think that he's going to be great in that role.
Do you have more respect for him today?
I do. Yeah. I do. I like that he's betting on himself. I like that he's, not waiting around for the NFL to give him another opportunity. He's taking control of his own destiny. And I don't know how good it's going to get for him at North Carolina. Like, I can't tell you right now that he's going to win the division next year. I don't know that he's going to be in the college football playoff next year. I think it's going to take time to build a program. But if he attacks it the way he's attacked everything else, I give him a shot. I mean, you see what Deion is doing. And you can't compare apples to apples here because they're two completely different personalities with two completely different styles. But when you see Deion in Colorado, originally it was about Shador and his sons and getting everybody there and kind of cleansing the guys that didn't want to be there. You're either on board or you're not. If you're not, get out. But now you're seeing him recruit guys that are going to be there and be a part of this program and part of what they have in the future. I kind of think Belichick can do that just as well as Dion has, if not better.
Not every NFL player is kind of plugged in and watching because it's a job. I know that for a fact. If you ask an NFL player, hey, tell me about this other game, they wouldn't have any idea. Kids coming up, generally speaking, watch football, have favorite players. All these guys that they're going to be recruiting just watch Bill Belichick on TV for a year. Like, this is who the real coach is. Not the guy that got up at the podium and mumbled for a few minutes in New England.
Yeah, that is another element of it. Like, because he was somewhat likable during his introductory press conference. He was still a little monotone and kind of what you would expect, but cracked a couple of jokes, won the crowd over with a couple of lines. Said that his first words, everybody reminds him his first words as a kid growing up were "beat Duke." Uproarious applause and laughter from the peasantry there at Chapel Hill after they heard that, but. So he's working the room, he's working the crowd. I don't know that it'll be the same salty Bill Belichick that we used to get after a bad loss. But I want to believe that he will be a little bit more likable in this role. At least up front, he's already a little bit more likable in this role.
Well, if anything, dealing with the Boston media has got to be a pain in the butt. You're going to lord over everything down there. Honestly, like in North Carolina, okay, you're going to have some kids that might ask some questions, but there's not going to be anybody holding your feet to the fire. Generally speaking, when you're lording, like this is why you saw the behavior for many years of Saban and why nobody calls out face-to-face Dabo Swinney on his BS.
Sure. Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of fun. And it became official today. Bill Belichick, new head coach. The University of North Carolina. We should talk about the Buffalo Bills.
Normally we would say, hey, here's what happened in practice today, folks. And no, in Buffalo they got swamped, practice canceled. If you were listening to One Bills Live today, they couldn't even get the TV show going. So it was radio only, guys, yeah.
Yeah, the snow forcing the cancellation of practice, a travel ban in Orchard Park. So they held virtual meetings today.
Did they?
And if they do gather tomorrow, I mean, usually your Friday is like installation kind of walkthrough type of practice. So technically, going into Detroit, they will have not practiced this week.
Which, for Kincaid and for Coleman, it's one thing to be healthy, but are they now all of a sudden I'm like, oh gosh, do they actually go into the lineup? And then we have this mystery surrounding DeMar Hamlin because wait a second, they didn't practice today. After yesterday's practice, he wasn't on the injury report. Now, back showing up. Is it like back spasm? I don't know. Back rib it's listed as. But, okay, you didn't practice today, but because there's some sort of ailment, or is this just gamesmanship? That would be 3 players in the secondary, the Bills perhaps down one.
Yeah, rough. And I'm having a hard time envisioning Rasul Douglas in the lineup on Sunday. I don't think he's going to be there. That's just me right now. On Thursday, tomorrow's practice report will obviously shed a little bit more light, but it doesn't feel like that's the kind of thing that he's going to rebound from in time to make it on Sunday. I'm not too worried about the Hamlin thing, but again, we'll see tomorrow's injury report.
Yeah, and tomorrow they should, like the snow is supposedly going to stop tonight out there, so they should be able to practice.
Rapp is the other one, yeah.
Rapp is, yeah.
An estimated injury report today with no actual practice happening, but the secondary is certainly banged up. Even though you're getting a little bit healthier on the offensive side of the ball. We had a couple of really good Bills-Lions conversations this afternoon. If you missed Russell Brown from Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros or Dan Fates from 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. You can find the Sports Bar wherever you get your podcasts. We sure love it when you seek us out, like, and subscribe. Just search out The Fan Rochester wherever you pod. That includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. Well, we're talking about the Sports Bar and The Fan Rochester. Check out our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. We stream every day. You can like and subscribe to the channel there on YouTube at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester.
There's another Power 5 school danger is coming up in Shots that made a hire today, but not the day to break that news. I'm sorry.
I know. I almost thought it would have been cheeky for us to start the show today talking about the big hire that happened in college football and lay out this story instead. But the bet was the bet, and we had to make sure we got the bet out of the way.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the Sabres here too.
Do we have to? I'm in kind of a good mood.
It's a team that is unwatchable. They're unlikable. And just last night, Lindy Ruff deciding to take minutes away from Owen Power and J.J. Paterka. Yeah.
Well, this is the accountability they asked for. They wanted accountability.
Better late than never.
Is the accountability going to start equaling some wins? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, you got Washington and Toronto this week. Good luck.
Yeah. Oof, okay. We'll get to a round of shots. Last call is still on the way as well. You can have the final word in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. 585-866-4FAN is our phone number. 866-4326.
practice today for the Bills. Heavy snow in Erie County forcing the postponement. The team meeting only virtually today. Although they didn't practice today, Damar Hamlin added to the injury report. Bills and Lions will have the coverage Sunday. Our pregame coverage will begin at noon. Bill Belichick introduced as the new head coach at North Carolina today. Why keep coaching?
Well, beats working. You know, when you love what you do, and my dad told me this, when you love what you do, it's not work. It's really, I love what I do. I love coaching. I love the interaction with the players. I love building a team, working with the assistants, game planning, the game itself.
The Amerks have made it 2 in a row. They get the win in Laval. Next up, a game at Belleville tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
From the field to the court to the rink, the sports leader is there. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour continues in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. It's time for a round of shots, Gino.
Well, if you thought last year was bad for the Sabres, this losing streak now is the longest in the last 4 seasons. It's now up to 8. Longest since they dropped 18 in a row in 2020 to 2021.
That was fun. We want greatness, boys. Let's not stop.
Keep going. You get to the perfect 10 here.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know where we're going, and we want at least one more.
9 times.
Yes, tomorrow we can hit that button over and over again. Washington coming up on Saturday. It's the Rangers defeating Buffalo. Of this 8 games, though, Danger, 7 of the 8 have been on home ice. Depending on where you look, the statistical probability of Buffalo making the postseason now ranges only between 7 and 13%. And if Montreal defeats Pittsburgh tonight, then Buffalo will drop to last place in the Atlantic.
I'm excited to
For
go
what?
see the Blackhawks play the Sabres at KeyBank. I know I'll be surrounded by many Chicago Blackhawk fans as well. I'm bringing my daughter coming up here during the break at the end of the month, and who knows, maybe at that point they will have won a game and ended this streak. Or maybe that's the game that ends the streak.
Where we've been talking about Bill Belichick to North Carolina, and certainly that is worthy of big discussion, West Virginia made their move today. They're going back to the future. They hired Rich Rodriguez.
Oh.
Rodriguez was West Virginia's coach from 2001 to 2007, and they were good. 60-26. They won 32 games in the final 3 seasons for Rodriguez. That was good enough to land him the job at Michigan, but then that didn't go well. And then another Blah tenure, this at Arizona, and it's been bouncing around since. Rodriguez taking assistant jobs before landing most recently at Jacksonville State, a program that had just won D1.
So this is me confessing that I'm not always a very good sports talk host. When you mentioned going into the break that there was another head coach announcement, I thought you were going to bring up UNLV. This didn't even register with me. There was a new coach hired at UNLV as well.
Is that official? Mullen going to UNLV?
I've seen that in my feed.
Okay, so Mullen is another one, yeah.
I didn't see anything about
Maybe
Rich Rodriguez.
Today wasn't the day to announce
I guess that's the thing, right? Like, the day where the GOAT is being announced as the head coach at University. I mean, not only is the guy winning the day, you got the AD ripping his sleeves off of his suit and doing that whole thing. I mean, they just completely dominated the news cycle in college football.
A woman in North Tonawanda is suing former Buffalo Bills wide receiver Eric Moulds, according to the Buffalo News.
Yes, I'm suing Eric Moulds. I don't like him. He was very mean to me.
The woman whose name they redacted said that Moulds knowingly gave her herpes simplex virus type 2.
You're setting me up, you son of a bitch. You put this story in here just so I could do Saul Rosenberg as a woman complaining about getting herpes. I know you, Gene. I know how you are.
Well, he's very mean to me, 1. And then 2, I'm a woman, by the way. Thank you. I deserve respect. I live in North Tonawanda, and Eric Moulds was very mean to me when we were together, and he gave me herpes simplex virus type 2. I have herpes simplex 2, and it's itching like crazy. It's driving me crazy.
The lawsuit claims that
I went to scratch my ass, and I fell down the stairs, and my shoes fell off, all because of Eric Moulds. I want to sue him and the Buffalo Bills for punitive damages. I'm going to go back inside now in North Tonawanda.
The lawsuit claims that he knew or he should have known he had a sexually transmitted disease.
That's right.
And he didn't disclose that before they became intimate. Moulds ranks number 2 on the Bills' all-time receiving list in many categories behind Andre Reed.
Yes, Eric Moulds did this to me. He had an STD, didn't know about it, and now when I'm naked, I look like the Sarlacc pit from Star Wars. It's terrible. He's gave me herpes simplex 2, the clap gonorrhea. I'm baking bread down there. I'm joining a new rap group called the Yeasty Boys. It's me, Eric Moulds' ex-lover, and I'm suing him for punitive damages.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. I'm sorry. I
shouldn't have brought it up, pal. You knew where I was going to go with it. You're setting me up.
I'm not setting you up. Not all your former Buffalo Bills are heroes. That's kind of the story there.
No, some of them have STDs. Get out of here. Really? Pro football players with sexually transmitted diseases? Couldn't be them.
Well, Moulds has many children, too. I got to look up the number on that. Can't blame Major League Baseball for wanting to make a buck. On the Dodgers website, there are 2 live auctions right there. You're going to look at them. One is for the ball that Aaron Judge dropped in the disastrous top of the 5th, leading to the Dodgers win. Want to guess what the other ball is for, Danger? It's for Garrett Cole failing to cover first.
Just rubbing your nose in it. Just absolutely. Here's an S sandwich. Now tell us how it tastes.
They don't list it as that. They list it as, here's the ball, single by Mookie Betts to Anthony Rizzo. Oh, yeah, that's one way to describe it. Technically, yes, it was. Right now, nobody's into loser memorabilia, Danger. The Judge drop ball is going for $17,000. The Cole ball, failing to cover first base, only at $6,610.
It's still, though, when you think about it, $17,000 for a baseball. The dropped ball by Aaron Judge. When I think about the economy that goes into collectibles and memorabilia, it blows my mind.
The one time I went to a game in Buffalo, okay, and this was the opportunity to sit second row, right? Like, we're there 4th of July, and a couple down from us, it's behind the screen, they have the authenticator right there. Take the photo, log it. Like, if there was somebody who fouled the ball off, broken bat, we're bringing this over and we're going to sell this. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We're going to make money on, I guess. Yeah, somebody's willing to buy that.
It is, yeah. And that's the thing. You would question it. You or I or many would question it, be like, who's buying that? Collectors. Yeah. Collectors are, but somebody is collecting that and somebody will buy that. $17,000.
It's going to get way higher.
I would imagine.
Because you normally, hey, here's the show, hey, Ohtani ball. Oh, great. millions. I would think. And interesting, they didn't put that on the Yankee website, only the Dodger website.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, there's no charity angle to this, right? There's nothing.
No, it's MLB trying to make a buck there. Here's another detail in the Juan Soto contract. He gets to wear his number 22.
Okay,
no big deal. Oh, except for the last 3 years, it's been worn by third baseman Brett Beatty. He's bounced between the Mets and Syracuse, really hasn't found his footing. Sorry, Brett. Pick a new number.
Yeah, is it like in the NFL where you have to pay the player to give up the number and then you take the number from them, or is it just a matter of, hey, I'm Juan Soto, I make more money than any professional athlete on the planet, and I'm taking my number. Thank you.
Literally was that. It's like, if I sign with you, I'm wearing number 22.
Did we talk about the luxury box thing with the Yankees?
Yes.
We talked about that yesterday,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's other details that are kind of like emerging that Soto had a thing against the politics of some of his former Yankee teammates.
Oh, I missed this.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
and that he and Lindor hit it off because their views are more aligned than some of the views that he had with some of his former teammates with the Yankees.
It's the Met fan base leans a little more Latino. Also, you can't overlook that. Mm-hmm. That based on where they are and based on the fan base, and that there is just kind of a different vibe.
I get pulled into so many different text threads from friends that I have, not just locally here, but like friends in New York and friends in Jersey and friends in Florida, whatever it is. And I get hit with just flurry after flurry. And I am in a Mets/Knicks text group with guys that just all they want to do is talk Yankees, Mets, and Knicks, and the stories just come through a mile a minute. And I want to be able to credit where I saw that, but it was just an excerpt from an article somewhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's another reason why the Mets got over on the Yankees, if you want to believe what's being reported.
Well, I thought with Soto signing, like, okay, that's the damp. We get all this other stuff. Okay, Alonso's still out there. Bregman's still out there. There's some talent to get. We don't have the Arenado trade yet, so there's still, the winter meeting's wrapped up. What are we doing here?
Yep. All right, good stuff. There's shots. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up, and we will get to tomorrow afternoon here in the Sports Bar. We'll give our predictions tomorrow afternoon, and we'll be joined in studio, it looks like, by, speaking of collectibles and the like,
There's
some breakers in here.
Yeah, the breakers. That was such a fun topic. Yeah, we'll open up some cards tomorrow.
We the Hobby joining us tomorrow in studio. We'll talk a little bit more about that next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick.
Is that a corn?
That ain't no corn.
What?
That's a super corn!
Oh, wow. Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It is last call in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. We sure do appreciate you making us part of your afternoon routine. However you may be enjoying us, there's no shortage of ways to get the sports bar on in your life, including 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app where we sound our best. And we try to look our best on our YouTube channel. The stream is up on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe wherever you enjoy the sports bar. We sure do appreciate it. We know how many choices you have for your sports information and entertainment. It's humbling. We don't take it for granted. We love being able to do this with you every afternoon in the Flower City.
I know the trend is kind of reversed, but I'm going to make a bold prediction for Monday night. We're going to get primetime Kirk. Well, that's a fact. We're getting Kirk Cousins still starting for Atlanta. This is the quote from Raheem Morris, Falcons head coach, that Michael Penix is the future, but he's going to get his chance when it's time. Okay, maybe no touchdowns, two picks a game.
You think it's going to be bad for Kirk on Monday night?
Well, look, at what point are you making this move if you're Atlanta? This just seems so obvious that Michael Penix, 27 years old, ready. Okay, you drafted him. Why did you draft him?
If you're going to start him, this would be the spot, right? It's
Correct.
The Raiders. It's in Vegas. So, I mean, you imagine that there'd be a lot of Falcon fans. Are there Falcon fans traveling?
I don't know. At the very least, it's not hostile.
Sure. Man, I just can't let go of the notion that if Penix was starting or if any quarterback was starting with any sort of athletic ability or mobility that Cousins doesn't possess, for as good as that offense has looked at times, specifically Bijan, man, Bijan is ready to be unleashed. And he's been good this year. He's put up numbers this year. But you're still banking on Kirk Cousins. Wow. Okay.
8:15 tonight on Prime. Rams and 49ers. I haven't talked really about this. Rams at 7-6, Niners at 6-7. Feels like a Niner game. The Niners need this more, perhaps, Danger. Are you buying San Francisco at home?
It's so tough, man. I am torn on this. The Niners did what they were supposed to do last week. They beat up on a bad team. Dre Greenlaw returning, I think, means something to their defense. God, crazy to think the last time we saw him on a football field, he popped was it an Achilles or an ACL?
Yeah.
Celebrating in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And of course, our recency bias would say, well, the Rams, they look really, really good. The Rams are going to have to go in there, and they have to beat the Niners. The team with the winning record is going to win. Right now, the Rams are getting 2.5 at BetQL. I think I like the Niners in this spot. I think I like the Niners to cover. Give me the Niners minus 3.5. Give me Juwan Jennings, Niners wide receiver. Give me the alt receiving yards total on that. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to go over 80-plus yards receiving for Juwan Jennings plus money on FanDuel.
How do we feel about primetime Al Michaels, coming back to Amazon in 2025?
Fine. He's not, I mean, you watch the games, it's not like he's doing a bad job. Every now and then he just gets a little cranky, that's all.
It's losing a little bit off the fastball for sure.
I think Herb Street is great, and I don't think Al does like such a bad job where it's like, get this guy off my TV. You could make the argument that Brady at times last week was like, get this guy off my TV. He sounds horrible. He's in rough shape. But then he redeems himself by basically saying the thing that everybody knew. Like, what is he doing here? Why would you call timeout? Like, that's the kind of analysis I think we want out of our color guy. But Al, as a play-by-play guy, is still viable. I think he's still good. Buck and Aikman still have the top spot for me. There's still a bigness to those two calling a game that I don't hear replicated anywhere else, including Nance and Romo.
I wish they would give more Olsen. Can you find a better, like a better partner, put him on a better platform?
I think Brady is going to have to choose this offseason. What's it going to be, buddy? Are you going to – because the Raiders are going to want him to be involved. Make decisions, football decisions. We don't make them well. You know the game. You can help us in your minority role. But then when does it become a conflict of interest? When he's making those decisions for the Raiders and reporting and commenting on the other 31 teams in the league in his other job.
Problem is that it would be the Raiders or nothing, Danger, the way you're describing that, because what Mark Davis did, it was such a lowball offer. Like, I really want you a part of this. Here you go. No owner. Like, whatever they paid in, all these investors in for Buffalo, they have to be looking at, well, how did Tom Brady get let in for the Raiders at that price? That's why it took so long to approve. We're like, okay, you know what? This is a good thing. Have Tom Brady there. You can't have them Brady flipping that and then making, gosh, who knows how much.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty safe investment, the NFL, is it not? You get a pretty decent return if you're in that club. But yeah, I have a feeling that Brady is going to have to, at some point, step away from Fox and all that money and just say, all right, the Raiders want me to do this, so I will do this. Tonight, Niners hosting the Rams. Al and Kirk on the call on Amazon Prime. Week 15 gets underway with a game that has playoff implications. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Tomorrow on the show, we will talk about fantasy-wise. We'll talk to our buddy Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy. The fantasy playoffs are here. We wish everybody well if they're in there. And we'll also be having some fun with the guys from We The Hobby coming in and breaking some cars here on a Friday.
I see Nate.
Nate is one of them.
I like this.
Nate and Leah are coming in.
Very good. We're going to have some fun with our friends from We The Hobby. And we'll open up some cards tomorrow live on the air. That's at 4:25 tomorrow afternoon as we kick off your sports weekend here in the Sports Bar. If you missed Dan Fates, who joined us in the 3 o'clock hour, 13 Wham Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. Or if you missed Russell Brown, seek us out in the free-to-download Odyssey app. That is our home online, AUDACY. Not only can you stream the Sports Bar and the Fan Rochester, where we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app, you can get caught up on all of our episodes, all of our guest appearances. If you're podcasting on other platforms, you can just search out the Sports Bar, and you'll find us there as well. Gino and I will be back tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock with a brand new episode. I will be
on the break room.
On the break room tomorrow morning. Just after 9 o'clock for Tommy Tells It Like It Is, as we'll make predictions on the Bills and the Lions. And who knows, maybe the Bills actually get to practice tomorrow and don't get snowed out. Enjoy your night. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.